Want to go, pretty boy?
Two minutes by yourself and you feel shame, and then you get free.
The only thing better than a glass of beer is tea with Miss McGill.
And welcome to the Fourth Line Voice Podcast. My name is Darren. Thank you very much for tuning in. Episode 483 of the big show, some enforcer-based podcasting coming at you, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. How's everybody doing out there? Oh, she's a cold Saturday here, folks. Let me tell you, colder than a banker's heart. Oh, at minus 33 this morning. Yeah, the work was a little cold, a little chilly. Yeah, but we're here. We're going to warm you up today. Special guest, J.D. Eaton. I recorded with J.D. Earlier this week. Great guest, good dude. Tells some great stories. Of course, came up in the golden age of the OHL in the early 90s against Eric Lindros and crew, and we talk about that. And then playing in the Colonial League and down in the Central and the Whipple. And he has some great stories. A roommate with infamous Link Gates. Oh, yeah, you'll hear how that went. How do you think that went? Oh, yeah. But all that and more. But first, let me I got to ramble with you for a second. I won't keep you long because no one's tuning in to listen to me. But I just want to let you guys know that, as you know, I'm a member of the Hockey Podcast Network, over 100 shows in the network. I'm on the original content creator side. Myself, Terry Ryan, old Ted Hitchcock. Of course, the Shoresy crew is doing their global tour right now. I think they were just down in Toronto. I know they're going to LA next week, and that'll always be interesting to go see them take on the they play like the Maple Leaf alumni or the Kings alumni or what have you. So, and I've heard the event's a really great event. They have a lot of fun, and like I said, the guys are really accessible. John Morasti and of course Jared Kiso, the creator, Shoresy, and Terry Ryan, etc. So, if they're in your area, because of course that's the thing, Shoresy. Of course, they're the Sudbury Blueberry Bulldogs, right? Well, of course, J.D. Eaton started his OHL career with the Sudbury Wolves, so we got the connection. We got a little bit of a Shoresy connection. What is it? It's kind of the 6 degrees of separation here, but yes. So check that out. And where was I? Oh, the network, yes. And, of course, old Joel Lazito, he's on there. Coliseum Chronicles, The Penalty Box, tremendous back catalog, Asham, Strudwig, on and on. He just released an episode. I don't know if it released or escaped. You can decide. But unfortunately, he was in my country driving around. They just let him unaccompanied by an adult drive around Canada. So I don't know how I feel about that. But him and his son go their annual OHL adventures, and where they come across the border and see how the other half live. And that's what I keep saying, Canada needs a wall, I'll tell you that. And, but if anybody knows, if anybody has the number to Carney, let them know. We're letting too many people in here. But check out Jolt and Joe's show, and then of course my other venture, because you just can't hear and you just can't get enough of my voice. The Bruised and Battered podcast that I do with Jay and Alec. It's a look at current tough minor league hockey and the shenanigans. Folks, I got to this last step. Look at a little heat. I caused a little heat. I got a little fired up, and over the Elias Thompson suspension of 10 games at the Federal League, and him and off ice, he was in street clothes. He got into it with an opposing player, and the fans were acting like it was the crime of the century. And as I famously known to say, it was a bunch of nothing. But the angry villagers got their way, and here we are, sort of an eye-rolling result. But and I go on a long tirade about that on today's episode, or this week's episode of the Bruised and Battered Show. Well, we all do, but we do have a special guest. Jay sat down with Nick Panucci of the Quad City Storm, who's actually the SPHL fighting leader right now. Had a good conversation, and like I said, the Bruised and Battered Show, we look at all the 4-letter leagues in the minors, East Coast, SPHL, Federal League. Well, I guess the AHL is 3 letters, but you know what I'm getting at. LNAH, there you go. There's another 4-letter. Yeah, and I have a lot of fun with those guys, and it's a fun little show, and it's really growing. It's really caught on with people, and as I said, the success early on with it has been really rewarding, and so that's been really cool. So, but yes, if you could do that. Please subscribe to the Bruised and Battered YouTube channel. It's growing. It's slowly. We just started it, but we'd really like to get the subscribers. And, we're going to as the winter rolls on here and Jay has more time and school kind of maybe slows down a little bit for Alec, then, we could, we can start really going on some of the stuff for the channel. So, but please keep that in mind. If you go onto YouTube, Bruised and Battered, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, it's free. It doesn't cost anything. Just hit the subscribe button, and you're helping us out huge. So, and while you're there, you can subscribe to the Fourth Line Voice YouTube channel. And every Friday, for those listening right now, in the sound of my voice at 11 o'clock Eastern, that's 10 Central, 9 Mountain. Know your time zones. I do a live stream, Fighting Friday, I call it. Hockey fights and chill, as the kids say. Yeah, where I spin the best of the old and new of minor league and junior hockey, and go for about an hour and a little bit, and got my fat head down on the side of the screen, and I yap away, and we get people jumping into the comment section, and everybody had a good time. Like I said, last one, Wade Brookbank showed up. We had Brandon Sugden in one before. Steve Jiggs showed up. So you never know who's going to be in the chat. And so I encourage you, every Friday night, I'm down in my basement here watching some fights and drinking beers. And it'd be great if you could join me. So Fighting Friday, the live stream on my YouTube channel, Fourth Line Voice. And please follow me on the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, but I'm not so much on Twitter that much anymore. But and subscribe to the Fourth Line Voice YouTube channel. Like I said, 2,500 fight videos. Always something. I'm sitting over here looking at the DVD right now. After I'm done recording this, I am going to upload Dennis Bonvie's retirement DVD that the Wilkes-Barre Penguins gave away on his final game. It's a little look back, a little biography DVD. If I remember correctly, it's about 30 minutes. It's got interviews and fights and the whole deal. So you might check the YouTubes for that coming shortly. But all right, folks. Well, there's my public service announcement, and I'm gonna drop a DraftKings ad on you, so you could hey, maybe sign up for DraftKings using the promo code THPN, and you could bet on some football tomorrow, and win Christmas money for the kids. Sure, why not, right? That's we'll try to remain optimistic around here and check that out. But anyway, folks, and for those that are tuning in for the first time because you're here because JD Eaton brought you here, welcome, thank you. I encourage you to please check out the back catalog. I've been doing this a long time, 483 episodes, but I've interviewed a lot of great guys along the way, and I'm sure you could find someone that you wouldn't mind hearing stories of, so or stories from, I guess. So please, I encourage you to check out the back catalog. But anyway, I'm going to shut up. Let's get out of here. And here's my conversation with JD Eaton.
And now, here's a word from our sponsor.
Spinorama's Michigan goals and the sprawling save across the crease. Live and breathe all the highlight moments with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of the Boot Hill Casino and Resort, pass-through per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. All rights reserved.
Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
All right, here on the Fourth Line Voice, I have a special guest tonight from Sudbury, Ontario. Here he is, JD Eaton. JD, how you doing tonight?
Good. How you doing? Glad to be here.
Hey, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And well, like I was telling you before, we're going to get going. We're like I like to do on these interviews, like timeline your guys' career, and we'll step in the time machine and go back, and we're going to talk some old OHL, some Colonial League, some Whipple, maybe even some Major League roller hockey, folks. We'll talk about it all. So if we're ready to go. JD, we'll start at the beginning. Where were you born and raised, and where did you play your minor hockey?
Well, I was born and raised in Sudbury, Ontario, and I played all my minor hockey here in Sudbury up until I was drafted to the OHL, and then I stayed in Sudbury with the Wolves for the first part of my first year. Then I was traded to Detroit, which were the Ambassadors, which changed to the Junior Red Wings, which is now its ownership changed a few times, and they're in Flint now. But and then I stayed there for my last 3 years of junior in Detroit.
Yeah, well, yeah, like you said, you grew up in Sudbury, and you played AAA there and everything. Were you?
Yep.
Was it sort of like? Was it always sort of the dream to play for the Wolves, or did you kind of want to get out of town?
Well, you know what? Back when I was in minor hockey, I was a big point guy, big goal scorer, and in my midget year, my draft year, I tore my ACL, MCL. I had my knee totally reconstructed, and then they didn't know if I was going to be able to play hockey anymore. So part of it was teams were contacting me, will you report? And my parents were really pushing, what if this doesn't work out? You can't skate, you can't play. And my mom was, at the time, she was a principal, so school was a big deal. So when Sudbury told me that they were going to select me, we kind of came together and we had a plan that I would just turn down everything, and Sudbury ended up taking me in the third round. And I just kind of started from there, and I was able to do all my rehab in town before I wasn't really able to play at the beginning of the year. It took me about a month and a half, 2 months before I could get back skating better. And then what happened was we had a player in Sudbury, Jason Young, and he had, I don't know if anyone remember this, but he cross-checked Grant Marshall from behind into the boards, and Grant broke his neck.
Yep.
And he was done for the year. So Jason was suspended for the rest of the year, and he was one of our better players. That draft year, it was myself, Michael Pekka, and Brandon Convery were the top 3 picks. And when we were loading up to make room for Jason, I was the odd man out, and I got dealt to Detroit for actually another good guy from Sudbury, Johnny Stoss, who was a 19-year-old at the time. They were loading up to make a run, and it worked out for me. I got to go play on an expansion team and get on the ice. So best case scenario for me, it kind of worked out. Sad leaving home, but part of the game, right? As you pick up, you go.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing, and especially you look at that Sudbury team at the time. I mean, you got Terry Chitteroni, and you got Glenn Murray, Sean O'Donnell, of course, all went on to have long NHL careers, and Sean Rivers is there. I mean, that was pretty.
Yeah.
Jamie
loaded.
Yeah, Jamie Matthews. Yeah. I mean, first round pick. I mean. Didn't.
If I'm not mistaken, we had 7 guys go in the draft that year, and then the year later we had Pekka go, Convery go. They were stacked with draft picks on that team. It was tough playing for sure, especially if you're a rookie.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say one of the guys that I'm a big fan of. Do you got anything you remember about Sean O'Donnell?
Buddha. His nickname was Buddha. That's what his nickname was back in 1990. Back when I played with Sean, he was one of our leaders, our older guys. He was our assistant captain at the time, and he was just a steady Eddie, a steady Eddie D, tough, play hard. I do remember specifically one big tilt he had with Drake Barowski, and we were in Drake was in Kingston at the time, and I knew Sean just he was on the team. Never knew him was a tough guy. We had like Adam Bennett, we had Chirone, we had some guys that would fight. But when O'Donnell threw down with Barowski, I quickly learned that we had one more guy that we didn't know that was a pretty heavyweight. Sean was a pretty tough customer.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I can think of a good Sean O'Donnell story. We were going to Ottawa, and we had this radio guy. His name was Brian Band on the bus. And Ken McKenzie was our coach, and he had some family. So we got off before we got to Ottawa. So he got off, met his wife, and met the kids and whatever. And just before we got to wherever we go to the rink in Ottawa, and it was Sean O'Donnell. Sean O'Donnell got up and he kicked the radio guy off the bus. He was like, "Benner, this is your stop." And he was like, "Wait, I got to go to the rink." He goes, "No, this is your stop." And him and Chitter removed him from the bus, and we left him on the side of the road. We get to the rink. Of course, everyone gets called in. Where's Banjo? Where's Banjo? Where's Banjo? And I don't know if Sean ever came clean or if someone took the blame for it or if Wade Bartley ended up taking the blame for it, but someone took the blame for kicking the radio guy off the bus. As soon as our coach left, O'Donnell was playing tricks. Well, I was going to say, did he have heat with the radio guy, or was it just
I don't know. It could have been just he thought it was funny at the time, and it was like the coach is there, the radio guy's safe, the coach left the bus, and it's 20 against 1, and he was the odd man out.
There we go. No play-by-play that.
And I do remember when we were going there, and it was we had lost a game or two, and it was kind of quiet on the bus. And when you're listening to music and you have earphones in, you kind of talk louder because you don't understand the music in your ears. And I can remember him asking for the liner notes, and I can't remember the band, but he was asking for the liner notes. But it was during the time we were kind of catching hell on the bus. And I know that our coaches wasn't too happy. So that might have been part and parcel of why O'Donnell booted him off the bus as soon as the coaches got off the bus.
Oh, tremendous.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, about, tough lineup to crack. And then probably the best thing for your career was, like you said, was getting shipped to Detroit because now you're going to play.
Absolutely.
Well, okay. Well, I'll talk about who you played against in a second here. But yeah, so you show up in Detroit. And of course, Pat Peaks there, who went on, first round pick with Washington.
Yep.
Paul Mitten, 20-year-old guy, one guy, Tom Sullivan, David Ben, some tough dudes, man.
Oh. Right, and that's how they kind of put that team together. They knew they were going to take some beatings as an expansion team, and we loaded up with some tough guys that. We had a big rivalry with the Sioux Greyhounds and also the Windsor Spitfires, who were they were loaded with some tough guys too, and they weren't going to let us get walked all over. Granted, we didn't win a lot of games, but we didn't lose a lot of games either, if you want to look at it that way also. So the scoreboard might say 7-1, but everyone's faces and knuckles didn't say 7-1.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. And I was going to say, especially we're talking 1990, 91. Obviously, hockey's a different time back then. And a lot more fighting, yes, obviously, and everything else in the Ontario League. And of course, every team had guys. And but of course, 90, 91, I got to ask. Of course, the phenomenon that was going on in Oshawa was, of course, Eric Lindros.
Yes,
the talk of the hockey world at that time, and the next one, and everything. What was it like playing against that dude as a 17-year-old?
Oh, man, by the time we played against each other growing up, and he shot up. When he came into his teenage years, he just shot up, and he became a man playing with boys. It was total dominance. I've never played against someone else that controlled the game like that, and he was physical. It wasn't like Gretzky, 6-point night, you don't even know he's on the ice. You knew where he was all the time, because even if he had the puck, he'd run you over with it.
Yeah.
It was a different beast back then. And I believe at the time he was 18 and he played in the Olympics.
Yeah.
He was still junior eligible, and he was a big wheel on that team, a physical force on the team.
Yeah. Well, and that was and another guy that was on that team that, obviously, well, I mean, when you're playing with Lindros, you're going to get your points, obviously, but you're also going to get overlooked too a lot. But was Rob Pearson.
Oh, another guy that when he played in Toronto, I thought he'd have a better, or at least a longer NHL career, because he was a player too, man. He was a point. Another guy that could just play. Now, granted, like you said, he got the opportunity to play with Eric, but prior to Eric being there, he was still a player. Like he was, I thought he'd have a longer career, or at least a lot more prolific, anyways.
Yeah, and like for those wondering, like this year, of course, I think they won the Memorial Cup this year too. But Rob Pearson, 41 games, he had 57 goals.
Yes.
So
that's not fluke.
no, you got to put it. Hey, you might get the puck, but you got to put it in too. So
sure.
I mean, but yeah, Matt Hoffman, Dale Craigwell. I mean, well, and then the Big Diesel, Mark Deasley, a tough guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
another crazy man.
Yeah, exactly. And so I mean, that team could definitely. That's how they win the Memorial Cup. You can kind of play any way you want to play, right? So, but like you said, you had played against Eric. Did you know Eric Lindros? Did you get to know him at all?
No, we only played against each other growing up. We were only we only played against each other. Actually, on the under 17. I was to be roommates with Eric, but he went to the under 18. He didn't come to under 17, so I had a fill-in guy from Ottawa fill in as my roommate after the fact when he realized that he wasn't going to show up for our camp, and he went to the under 18 camp.
Okay.
Which he needed to be. There would have been no waste of time for him to play with us. He was a man at that time.
Yeah. I'm just kind of going down through the league here at the time because, I mean, there's so many names that I'd love to, like I said, you played against all these guys and maybe you got a story about them, but, that year in North Bay, led by Trevor Halverson, and for
they had, who were the two brothers there? Who were the two big brothers they had? I can't think of their names.
What, the Antoskis?
One guy plays the one, but they had the Antoskis, the Jason Beaton, they had Dennis Bonvie, they had a murderer's row too.
Yeah. Well, this year in 90-91, well, Darian Hatcher's there, and and Drake Barahowski, like you had said, and a crazy little newfie named Jason McDonald.
And he was a tough little guy too.
Yes, he was. Just kind of looking at these names, you're a 17-year-old kid trying to make your way through the league and kind of, also kind of make a name for yourself. At this point, had you kind of, like you said, growing up, I mean, you're the scorer and everything else. And, now you get you find yourself in the OHL at 17 and, were you sort of, because of this, we'll get to the penalty minutes in a bit. You still hadn't kind of got there yet, but were you sort of getting pushed that way to kind of become, did you kind of think, I could score in this league, or maybe I should start, I don't want to say being a rat, but I mean, getting more physical and,
when I tore my knee apart when I was a midget, when I did eventually make my way back from it, I had lost a step or two, and being that quick, fast guy it just wasn't in the cards anymore. So I had to adapt to it, and the physical aspect was always something I played with anyways. I enjoyed the hitting, and that was part and parcel of how I played in the first place. But when you start doing that in the OHL, you got to start answering the bell once in a while if you're hitting the wrong guys, right? So it kind of led to that, and being down the depth chart. I was like a third liner. I'm out there. I'm checking. I'm killing penalties, stirring it up. So I kind of got thrown into that kind of role, if you want to put it that way, and then just kind of ran with it. I know in Detroit, I got paired up with a lot of the same style players. Pat Barton, Darren Hurley. Kind of, if you look at the stats, we're all like 130, 140 PIM guys, and that was kind of like our knockout punch. We had Pickard scores goals, and we had a few other top guys, Jeff Gardner and Mark Lawrence. But we were the calming force. It was Hurley, Barton, myself. that's time to calm things down out there. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
But it's something I kind of relished as I moved forward. Just it got me ice time, right? And I wanted to play, and I could still play a little bit. I could do a little bit, not as well as I could before, but this got me on the ice, so I embraced it and rolled with it.
Yeah, and I was going to mention your assistant coach at the time. People might know that name. Of course, was Paul Maurice.
Right. I have. I go through this a lot when people ask me. Well, they ask me. I teach now, so they always want me to do these coaching. Can you coach? Can you coach? And every once in a while, I'll go into it and I'll ask the parents, "Well, who did you have for a coach?" And that's where I start. I said, "Well, Jim Rutherford, Paul Maurice, and Stanley Cups, and Mike Kruseninsky." And it's a row of Stanley Cup champions that I had as coaches, also playing. So the pedigree and what I've learned just from them on top. Right, is more that's a life lesson right there, as opposed to some people who, and I say this all the time to the kids I teach, their dad's their coach, or their uncle's their coach, or their dad's buddy's their coach. I had National Hockey League champions from the time I was 17 till the time I quit.
Yeah.
So the amount of information I was taking in was a lot greater than a lot of these other guys.
Did you get along with them?
For the most part. Tom Webster was a tough coach. He was probably the best X's and O's coach I ever had. But he was tough, and we had a couple of good. Here, I got a good Tom Webster story for you. We're playing in London, and we're getting down close to the playoffs, and I take a stupid penalty in the first period, and we come in the room, and there's a chalkboard on the wall, and before the game, he had written on the board, okay. Number 1, discipline. 2, back check. Blah, 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 blah. So he comes in after the first period, and he's laying into me, stupid penalty. And I know it's a stupid penalty, and I'm upset too, and I'm angry. And he goes, JD, what the fuck is that first word on the board? Well, the first word was discipline, but right above discipline, someone had scratched into it at some point, marsh dog. So when he asked me, what was the first thing on the list, I said marsh dog. Well, he took the fucking Gatorade container and he threw it at me. But a great big Gatorade container is pretty heavy. And he didn't get it to where he wanted to get it. And it went all over Todd Harvey. So Todd Harvey was fucking soaked head to toe in between periods. That didn't make Webby any happier. So when the period came out and we're going back out to the bench, he made me sit in the bleachers with my equipment, not on the bench. He made me sit halfway up the stairs with all my gear on and my skates in the fans for the rest of the game. Well, I didn't do that again.
There you go. The price you pay for comedy sometimes, I guess.
Oh, it gets better. So we get back to Detroit. So the next day we're having a meeting, and he's still salty about the whole thing. And I'm trying not to laugh because the guys are trying to get me to laugh in the room, and I have my head down. And he gets pissed off, and he kicks a bag of ice. Well, as if the bag of ice goes over my head and it catches a hanger like you'd hang your pants on. It sticks to the hanger, but it's torn and it just starts dripping, like drip, drip. And it's dripping right on my head. But I'm not breaking a smile because I know this guy wants to kill me right now. And to his credit, he started laughing after the fact, and it kind of took the little heat off a bit, but I was reminded every day till the end of the year that year about keeping my mouth shut and discipline. I learned that from Tommy Webster.
There you go. What was it? Oh, yeah. Going down the list here, I was going to say, we talked about North Bay there, but another team, Belleville. Of course, they had Brent Gretzky and Darren McCarty on that team. You remember playing against Brent Gretzky?
Absolutely. Poor guy. I played against Brent in Belleville, and I played against him in the United League later on. He was in Asheville.
Yep.
If you watched him play, it looked like anyways, he was trying to emulate his brother.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't Wayne, but he was still a heck of a hockey player.
He's very good.
But having that name made him a target, right?
Yeah.
And sure as shit, we'd all run him. We'd all take it, but you had to answer the bell, and you had to answer to McCarty. They had Richard Petrola was another tough guy they had there. Like, You had to answer the bell, and he took a lot of abuse with that for having that last name for years and years. But he was still a heck of a hockey player at the minor league level.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, Gretz. Yeah. Actually, they were all good, but it was just like Keith too. But it's just like
Oh, unbelievable!
Yeah,
Keith was unbelievable.
Yeah, but it's just like, what are you gonna do, right? Like it's just
Right?
I mean, yeah. But it was that's tough. But yeah, great players. But one guy. Speaking of scary, and you talked about Ottawa with Grant Marshall and stuff in the neck, but there was also a cat there named Chris Simon.
Oh.
Did you ever?
Chris Simon was, you know what? Chris Simon, I played against him in minor hockey. This is my introduction to Chris Simon. I was playing minor Bantam, and I got called up to play with the major Bantams, and we were playing in a tournament it happened to be in North Bay, and he was playing for the Sioux Indians. And he was just as menacing size as he ended up in the NHL as he was back then. And I was solid on my skates back then. And in my age group, I was one of the heavier, bigger guys. And running into guys was part and parcel of what I did. Well, I took a run at Chris Simon, and I don't think it slowed him down 1 mile an hour. And I went flying ass over tea kettle skates into the top of the glass. And if I stopped him, if I even slowed him down, I wouldn't even say I did that. He was like a brick wall, man. He was just a monster of a man, and he could play. He could shoot the puck. He was a big, big, scary dude.
Oh, absolutely. And and then later on those years when he was in the NHL and he looked like the Undertaker, it was like,
oh yeah,
like who was?
And they had Brett Sagan on their team. He was a hell of a hockey player, also.
Yep.
And I would just get under that guy's skin the entire game. They would drive Simon bananas. And they had who was their coach? Oh, he was in Slapshot. I can't think of his name there. Oh, geez. Mavity. No, Larry Mavity was in Belleville.
Kilray?
Brian Kilray. Oh, Brian. And Simon would be just, Bacardi would run me and I'd take him at the knees. And Simon would come and I'd fake high and I'd go down and it was just chaos. And they would just chase me around the rink. And the only one I would go and I would just lay back into Sergei the whole time. Just like a Marchand, just a little weasel. And I can remember, Jim Rutherford coming in the room after and loving it, just going, Jesus, he goes, who was that guy that played for Boston, the little rat? Ken Linsman. Ken Lisman lives. Ken Lisman lives. Yeah. I didn't want to go back to Ottawa, though, after that. That was
Yeah. I could have had, yeah.
Yeah.
Getting Simon and then worked up, that's
crazy, yes. Death wish.
Well, it is. I was going to say, you're lucky you're in the other division, so at least you can hide a little bit. But, yeah.
Then he got traded to the Sioux.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, then he came to the Sioux, and then, here we go, right? But that first year, I wanted to ask you, too, because he was one of my favorite players, and I actually got to meet him here in Saskatoon when the World Juniors was in Saskatoon in 1990. Of course, you played against him quite a bit. Niagara Falls was Brad May.
Oh, yeah. Sugar Ray May.
Yeah,
another guy that he was on his way out when I came in, but he was well known. He was stay away. Don't. Yeah. They had one little Bezo there, Andy Bezo. Yep. So if you wanted to waste your time with it, and he was a tough guy too, no doubt about it. But Brad May might hurt you, so you're a little bit more wary of where Brad May was all the time. I lead Brad May to Paul Mitten. Those guys could handle Brad May. You guys take Brad May.
Yeah, well, for those listening, of course, Brad May obviously went on and played 1,000 games in the NHL, and people all remember Brad May, and tough guy in Buffalo, and had a great career, but probably I don't think he turned into the power forward that they kind of thought he was going to be, but he is more definitely a tough guy than he was a goal scorer. Yeah. But I mean, folks, looking at his stats,
he wasn't really oversized.
No, yeah, but 34 games, 37 goals, 32 assists, 93 penalty minutes in that season. So I mean, yeah, he's crazy. But they had a cat named Todd Simon, 125 points. Jason Witch, 122 points. I mean, Niagara Falls was they led your division there. George Burnett coaching. But like you said, that year, this is the year that Sioux won the league. Denny Lambert, Ralph Internuvo, Adam Foote, Bob Bugner.
And we had them that year that they won. there was they had a Super Series league that year, and we were in the same division. So it came down to the top 2 teams in each division would play off the host of Memorial Cup, and we ended up being tied with the Sioux. And it came down to head-to-head. Well, they beat us the last 4 times that we played each other, and we lost that way. And they ended up playing North Bay and ending up hosting the Memorial Cup and winning that year. So we had an opportunity, and just didn't happen for us.
Yeah, it was, it was, well, like you said, with the Sioux, I mean, going through their roster. One guy that I wanted to ask you about, because I can remember you hear some stories. I know, and he fought Lindros there on TSN, and was Tony Yob.
Yep.
Do you ever have any
another solid player?
Do you have any run-ins?
Yeah, Tony and I had a couple tilts over the years. He was in Kingston at first, and then he ended up in the Sioux. He was a strong man. He was he went to play in Italy, if I'm not sure, after the fact.
Yes, he did.
For a while, yeah. But he was like you said, their team was a tough team. They were a tough hockey team. It was hard to go play in the Sioux. A lot of people call it the Sioux flu. Call it what you want, but that type of games. That was fun for me. I like that stuff. The physical part of the game, yeah, sure, whatever. It hurts sometimes. It only hurts after. It doesn't hurt when it's going on. That was the fun part of the game. That's something I still miss. Like to this day, got people ask me, do you miss it? Absolutely, I miss it. I miss the guys and the fun and that, but I miss the competition and the physicality of hockey.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and well, I'll get to the other rosters because there's some names I want to throw at you just to get your opinion on them. But just speaking of that, like you said, going to the Sioux was a tough place to play. We'll get into the pro later, but in terms of the OHL, what was your favorite rink to play in, and what rink did you hate going to? Like, what rink just sucked, and which rink was the best?
What? Well, I'm trying to think. Okay, well, you know what? I kind of rate them like this. I can remember playing. There was a handful of rinks. You remember the Muppets? You'd have those 2 old guys up in the crowd, up in the bleachers, chirping the Muppets.
Yeah.
There was a few little rinks here and there in the league, and they had these type of guys. And Cornwall used to be in the league, and it was a relatively new rink. There'd be like 8 fans in the crowd. It wasn't very well attended. Obviously, that's why they moved. But they had 2 old guys behind a bench, and they would just abuse you all game long. And it was comical. North Bay had 2 old guys, and the bench was like 3 feet behind the bench. Same thing. And in Sault Ste. Marie, same thing. Those were the 3 rinks and Windsor too. And Windsor they could go right down underneath in the belly of the rink, where the dressing rooms were, and it was just like an old sawhorse. That's what would keep the fans from the same kind of aisleway that we go through. And you got to remember, back then in the 90s, you're allowed to smoke in the building, so it was just a smoke-filled fiasco down in the bellies under those arenas all the time, because the fans were right there. So it didn't take nothing to get involved with the fans, but it was funny. There were some beauty carves and chirps that I wish I could remember them all, but those 3 sets or 4 sets of old guys, those were the guys that made it fun.
Well, I was going to say it, especially with the way you played, you had to have been a target.
Oh, for sure. I can remember my parents crying. We were playing. You were talking about Niagara Falls that year in the playoffs. David Ben was one of our big penalty minute guys, and they had a big sign behind the bench, Ben's bench. But then they had a Cabbage Patch doll with 22 on it and a noose they swinging around. And my mom came down, who was a devout Catholic, who she liked the fact that I played hockey, but she couldn't get over the fighting part and the hitting part and all that. And she was in tears when they had the Cabbage Patch dolls with nooses being swung around Niagara Falls Arena. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna say like you have the. Back then the fans are hanging all over you, and a little, different time back then. Do you ever pop a fan? You had to have popped a fan.
A fan. I can tell you a story in Quad Cities.
We're gonna get to that. I read the newspaper article. We'll get into that.
Okay.
But nothing in junior.
Not where I hit a fan. There was I can remember. There was a trainer in London. His name was Branks. He was a legendary trainer. He would be the only one I can think of that I really put one on that I probably shouldn't have. But same thing, chirp, 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 and you're off to a great year, Eaton 2 goals. You're off to a great year. And I would just time it perfectly so the puck came into the blue line. And just to say I was going to hit the D-man, but I took it off to the side, and I went full blast right at Branks with two hands, cross-check right in the face, down, out the door. Classic. No penalty, no nothing. Disaster. But I hit him hard, and it was intense. Today, you'd probably be suspended for the rest of the year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of this year, your first year there, 1991, there's a couple tough cats there in London that I want to throw at you, and the listeners will know who I'm talking about. Of course, one's on TSN these days.
Yeah.
Louis DeBrusque.
He was the scariest guy in junior that we played. Like, when Louis was on the ice, I can remember my first year in Sudbury, lining up against him and taking a step sideways. So you line up on the draw, and you put your stick over top the other winger. I wasn't putting my stick over top of his, and I was taking a step sideways because there's no way I was getting tied up with this Godzilla of a human back then.
Yeah.
He hit Adam Bennett one night. Him and Adam Bennett got in a fight in Sudbury one night in our end. And when he hit Adam and he knocked his bucket off, Adam's bucket went to the other end. I don't know if you ever punched a helmet, but to punch a helmet 100 feet is an incredible task.
Yeah.
Off someone's head.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I know from being, of course, I'm in Saskatchewan, right? So OHL, because of course, no internet, no YouTube or anything back then. So you'd only heard the rumors of this Louis DeBrusque guy, and unless it was a game of the week on TSN, you never saw these people, right? So here out in the West, anyway. So yeah, I remember first seeing him, and it was like, well, that was the thing too. I mean, obviously, you got a lot of room, but I mean, he had 30 goals that year too, but
for sure.
Obviously, but another cat that I wanted to ask you, because I've seen video now after he had the old fight tapes and everything else. He had a tremendous mullet. Was Barry Potomsky, the late Barry Potomsky.
Oh no, yeah, another guy that gone too soon.
Yeah.
Barry he made his way right to the NHL with the play. He was he was a gamer. Louis was a better hockey player for sure. But Barry had the long hair and was flashy and fan favorite, and he grew later in life. He became a pretty big dude later in life. As he grew, as a teenager, 19, 20, 21. By the time he played in the NHL, he was a lot larger than he was when he was in London.
Yeah.
I know he was into working out and yada, yada, yada. And he ended up owning a gym later in life, but he became a tough guy. In junior, maybe by his last year, he'd solidified himself as one of the tougher guys, but he didn't have that aura of Louis DeBrusque. That was one and only.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, well, going down, and of course we talked about the Kitchener Rangers, and of course led by Jason Firth. Who would go on to be a legendary goal scorer and point guy in the Colonial League and the UHL, and wasn't very big, but he could dangle.
I was another guy that he made the American League, and when he played, and he had a point a game. I remember in Prince Edward Island, another guy I thought would get a sniff because he was a point man wherever he played. Wherever he played, he was a 100-point guy, and just for whatever reason, he could skate, he could play, just never got a sniff. And I don't know if it was a personal thing or he was blackballed, or he was just. You see some guys make it, and you wonder, and then some guys don't make it, and you wonder also, right? But like you said, when you said about you don't get all the other leagues. When Louis left the OHL, I thought he was going to be like the next NHL big heavyweight, and he was a heavyweight, but. You don't get to see the Western guys, and you don't get to see the Quebec guys, and you don't get to see all the guys that are coming up. And not that he was by no means was he a ham and egger, but he was one of 20 guys instead of where I thought he might end up being. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it's strange how it goes, right? And well, right? There's not only talent that needs to be there, but you're gonna be a little luck involved too sometimes. So. You got
100%.
Get the right place, the right time, the right coach, or on the same time, the adverse side of that, of course, is you can get into, coach just doesn't like you for whatever reason, and you kind of get sunk, and and then all of a sudden you get a label, especially back then. I mean, you get a label put on you, you ain't shaking that label.
Yeah.
But, rightly or wrongly, it's that's happened many a time, right? And once you get that label of minor leaguer on you, you ain't going anywhere. So.
Right? Absolutely.
And it's, and that's why I always tell people, like with the show and on social media and stuff, I tell these guys, I'm like, do you really think every player in the NHL is better than every guy in the American League?
Yeah, right. No, not a chance.
No, I'm like
your top six guys might be, but the rest are like interchangeable.
Yeah, and I'm like, they just have better agents, man. Or they just got the right time or their contracts at the right moment, and and the money is there. You can pay them a little less than whatever, and there's lots of other things. I'm like, talent's further down the list than what some people think. It's just, it's
absolutely
it's the best 18. It's like, not really. It doesn't really work that way. There's
a lot of super talented guys that never got a sniff.
Exactly, and like I said, and that's why I like having guys like you on, and we're talking about all the different names, and you could throw out some names that, like another guy that like tore shit up in the OHL and was like, world junior team captain, Stephen Rice.
There you go, right? He was a beast in junior hockey.
A
man. Almost like a Lindros. He was just a big, strong man.
Yep. It's funny how it goes. Well, and then like we were saying, Joey St. Aubin, back-to-back 100-point years in the OHL, and and it's just And it's just crazy. But
Brian Sakic, Joe Sakic's brother, the guy was a 150-point man everywhere he played. He made some mistakes, but a lot of people make mistakes. Just didn't work out for him.
Yeah, well, and I think if I'm correct, I think he's the Western Hockey League's all-time point leader.
Right. For a season, for sure. Maybe career.
Career.
Career. 150 points a year.
Yeah. I know Rob Brown has the single season record because it's like 212 or something, but I know Brian Sakic had career total, and it's like insane numbers, and it's just like, which is hilarious because they actually bury Joe's numbers, right? It's kind of straight,
yes,
but it's just, that's how Kyle Reeves, another guy that tore shit up in Tri-City and just never, his biggest claim to fame after that was leading the roller hockey league, right? So it's just like, it's crazy how it goes, but a guy I got just speaking of crazy. There's a lead in, one of the craziest and had one of the toughest guys in minor leagues, Chris LaPuma.
Okay, he was in Kitchener.
Yes,
actually, when I was in Detroit.
Yep.
He actually the kid I lived with in Detroit, Derek Wilkinson. He was a goalie playing Tampa Bay. Actually, LaPuma stood in his wedding. No side note, but I don't know him, but I played against him.
Yeah, I was gonna say
another guy with crazy stats, with crazy PIMs for like year after year after year after year after year.
Yeah. Well, he played forever in the IHL, and I know he's from Chicago, so he played a long time with the Wolves, and all that stuff. And I remember the one fight tape I have of him. Of course, they're talking like, in the summer he's a roadie for like Motorhead or something. He goes on the road and then comes back and fights in the winter. Yeah, but I've had a few people on the show. He's a little different, but tough dude for sure.
For sure.
Oh, okay. This name has come up, and I want to ask you about this because it's not. I've tried to get him on the show too. I'd like to have him on the podcast, but the rumor coming out of junior, he was like supposed to be the next Bob Probert, was Alex Stoyanov.
Okay, yeah, he was. You're right. He was a very high pick. He was a first rounder, and he kind of fizzled out. He ended up going right to the Western Professional League. Like he was in Vancouver, I believe, for a bit, and then fizzled right out. I don't know how he was a big dude too, and he could play a little bit. And for such a big body, I'm not sure how that just fizzled right, because he started off as a tough guy in the NHL, and he was like the fights that I've seen, like those are big time fights, and he just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, he was drafted 7th overall by Vancouver, and the thing that did him in is he got traded to Pittsburgh for Marcus Naslund, and it's like that sort of, Vancouver got Naslund and the rest is history.
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of,
But I said back then, 1990, everybody was looking for the next Probert, right? And it was just like,
for sure.
And he's 6'5" and 240, and that's the thing. In his last year there, he started in that 1 year. He was in his final year. He's in Newmarket, 14 games, he's got 9 goals. Then they trade him to Guelph in 35 games, he gets 27 goals. So it's like, this guy's getting a goal a game, and he's kicking the shit out of everybody.
Yes.
because that was always the fight that I always wanted to see, because everybody talked about it in the OHL. Apparently, Stoyanov and Lindros fought in Oshawa one night and like killed each other.
I could imagine. I couldn't imagine. I never saw it if it did happen, but that would be two big boys going at her.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, obviously I don't, you know, obviously out of your weight class, but I mean, did you ever mess around with Stoyanov at all?
No, I would. He had he does have a guy on the team, Jeff O'Neill. I would run and chase him around, knowing that Stoyanov was coming, but the O'Neill would be my target. So I would just chase O'Neill all over the ice as much as I could.
O-Dog.
Yeah, the O-Dog. But compared to their team, we were solid. We handled them pretty easy, so there wasn't too many. We had enough tough guys that Alec couldn't run roughshod against us. I can't think of one particular time when there was a Stojanov story with us. Anyways, no.
One guy I got to ask you about. Of course, he put up some pims there, and with you guys, your first year there in Detroit, and then he went on to Windsor. Was Tom McDonald, Tom Sullivan?
What a man! What a tough man!
Yeah,
what a tough man! You've probably seen the fight with him and Vandenbush.
Yes.
Like, it's crazy tough. Sully fought everybody. Sully fought Potomsky. He'd fight Louis. Not during the year. Each game. We had Mitten and Tom and Sully were our two top dogs, I'd say, and that's who we would answer with Potomsky and Louis or whoever, Hatcher, you name it. Sully and Mitten were our two returnees to face those guys all the time, and Sully was a machine. I don't think you could hurt that head.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, I've seen the fight.
And a nice guy.
Yeah, it was, him, and like I saw the fight with Bandy.
Tough.
Yeah, I saw the fight with Bonvie that he had, and it's just like,
yes,
like him.
He didn't hold punches. He just, okay, it's time, let's go.
Oh yeah, didn't he? Is it him? Did he have a really good fight with a goalie?
Yeah, Roach in Windsor.
Yeah. Actually, that goalie did pretty good against him. Actually,
yeah, he was tough. He was a crazy individual. Not that they're, and you would think in a fight that the goalie gets involved. The teams, no, they were like, let him go. I can remember it as like it was yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, that video's out there. That doesn't happen usually. No. As soon as they see the goalie leave the crease, they're like, stop. But yeah, and it just looks so bizarre because normally the goalie fights the other goalie if he's ever going to fight anybody. But yeah, for all of a sudden to him to fight the tough guy, it was like the only other time I can remember that really is like Ray Emery fighting like Brian McGrattan. But it was like, but I remember the Sullivan fight, and I'm like, who the hell's the goalie that he fought? But I remember thinking, this goalie's actually doing really good against him. Oh yeah. He was known as a tough guy. Everyone knew he was a tough guy, Yeah. Well, sorry, folks. I mean, I could just sit here and throw names of all these tough guys all night at you, but we'll move on. The following year, 91-92, this year, like you're 17, you're in Sudbury, you get traded to Detroit. Okay, you finish the year out. Now you're 18, you're coming back to Detroit. Kind of second year in the OHL. Did you kind of have a feel like I'm making the team, or were you still sort of, I don't know, or like were you comfortable, or? Yeah, I was in a good spot at the time. I knew that my spot was safe, and just in meetings with everybody there, I was in pretty good shape at the time. And like I said, coming off my knee injury, and I rehabbed pretty much. I was right back to where I should have been, and I knew that next year that. Now I was gonna get an opportunity to play, not just rookie third line. I knew I was going to get an opportunity to play, and I did. We were a little bit better, but it was a good learning experience to be given the opportunity to play, and I think it set me up later in my career. Granted, our team got a lot better through trades, and the following year we were a powerhouse in the league. And we had kick-ass power play with Peaker and Renner and Brown. They had the junior production line when they all had like 140 points. So PP time was hard to come by the following year. But I think that my 18-year-old year was when I got my feet under me and realized, okay, there's a chance here I can make a run at this, or at least a sniff at playing this game.
Yeah, well, that was it. 17 goals, 18 assists. You had 136 minutes in penalties, so you're still mixing it up and everything. But like you said, put a little more production.
Yeah.
Well, a couple guys.
And I think they were happy. The fact that I was a prolific goal scorer up until junior. I think that they thought the same thing. Was like, okay, maybe we got this guy back on track, and I was given plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, well, and like you said, you're one of the 16-year-olds that joined your team that year. That, of course, you mentioned him earlier with the Gatorade all over him, but of course went on to have a great NHL career. Was Todd Harvey. When he shows up at 16, he plays 58 games, gets 64 points, got 140 minutes. So I mean, he wasn't afraid to throw the body and kind of stir the pot too. What were your first impressions of Todd Harvey?
He was a tough little farm boy, man. That was it. He didn't pick fights. He said yes to whoever wanted. There was no, and it was just he was a tough son of a gun. He had a great tilt with if you can remember Todd Bertuzzi, big Todd Bertuzzi, who was also from Sudbury actually, and he snotted Todd bad. And after that fight, he just kind of like jump started his year. And he went on. He didn't look back. He had a good rookie year. And next year, I think he had 50 goals. He scored 50 the next year, or high 40s. Yep. And he was a first-round pick into Dallas. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. And and another kid that shows up that would go on to become an NHL heavyweight, but it took him a little bit to get there, and there was some questions. Was Eric Cairns.
Oh, another monster of a man. His hands are as big as your head.
Yeah.
He was a monster. Same kind of idea. Like he was a great big guy who got kind of thrown into the role of enforcer, however you want to call it. And it took him a while to learn the role because he had some big losses and like hurt in some big losses. I can remember Matt Johnson in Peterborough, and Matt Johnson lit him up bad and hurt him like, and we came in the room between periods, and I can remember I was sitting with this guy named Tony McCabe. I can still remember he was my roommate, and Tom Webster came in the room and he told Eric, he goes, if you want to play at the next level, you're going to put your equipment on, you're going to get right back out there. And I told him McCabe, and I was like, that was not a chance I was going back out there if I looked like the Elephant Man like that. Not a chance. But he did, to his credit, he did. He didn't fight him again but later in the year they fought again. But he took a few lickings before he figured out his range and his size, and then he became a killer.
Absolutely, he did. And and we had mentioned him earlier, but of course this season he had in 61 games, he had 300 penalty minutes for you guys. Was of course David Benn.
Oh yeah, Benner, Dave Benn. Dave Benn was the son of a motorcycle gang and lived it as it was. He was in the gang. Banner was a unique guy. I can remember his parents, dad couldn't get across the border to come and see him, and the big joke was he was going to build a ramp on the Windsor side, and they were going to ride their motorcycles over the river. Benner was another guy who he embraced the physical part of the game. He'd rather get a fight than a goal. He'd rather break your stick in half with a slash than get a shot on net. He was a crazy, crazy man.
Love it. Well, and another guy, and I've talked. I got to get him on the show too. And I've talked to him briefly. It's been a while since I talked to him, but you talk about man, dude, guy looks like a fitness model. Was Pat Barton?
Bart's, yeah. Bart's played with him for a few years too. Another guy, and we were both right wing, so we occasionally we played with each other. We were kind of battling for those positions, the third, fourth line, second line. We were kind of in the same situation, but the same thing. Bart's was he enjoyed the physical part of the game. He liked to throw down when he got the chance. But he could play too. I think he ended up with a couple of concussion issues later in his career.
Yeah.
I came across him later. He was playing in the United League, and we crossed paths once, maybe twice over the years. But I outside of social media, we used to talk here and there. But I see him online, and he's active online. But he still loves the game, man, and he's a hockey player.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Another guy you played with, I want to bring up, of course, another 16-year-old this year that, kind of one of, like we were saying before, right? One of those under-the-radar guys that, people might not know, but he tore it up in the OHL and, had a, long AHL career, was Bob Wren.
Yeah, he was a shifty little guy. He was another guy that you wouldn't think, because he wasn't a great skater, but inside the top of the circles, hard to find another guy that can control the puck as good as he did, at least back then. He had it on a string. No, he wasn't my favorite guy in the team, but he could play hockey. He was part of that production line when they all had 140 points, and I believe our power play was clicking at like 50%. That's crazy for the year. Like, it was unbelievable. It was almost a guarantee if we got a power play, it's 1-0. If we got a 5-on-3, for sure it's 1-0, if not 2-0.
No, well, yeah, that is crazy. Yeah. Well, yeah, just kind of, going through the league this year, Niagara Falls, once again, Sioux's pretty dominant to win the championship, they had a run there in the Sioux for a while, boy, holy. But,
That the Lindros trade set them up for years.
Yeah. It's funny. The Lindros trade seemed to set up a bunch of teams for years.
Right. Set up Colorado, set up the Grant. You're absolutely right, yeah.
Yeah, but a couple names of the Niagara Falls that I wanted to ask you about, and because I know I have a lot of listeners over in the UK, and he went over there and started some trouble too. But Dennis Maxwell.
I played roller hockey with Dennis Maxwell.
Yeah.
He was a gamer too. I didn't spend a lot of time with Maxie, but we had a lot of fun. I played roller hockey with him in Buffalo. I was there for a few months. I was kind of like a taxi squad guy, which was fine with me. We still got paid and we didn't have to play, if that makes sense. But he was a tough guy. He could play. He never got a sniff either, but I know he played a little bit in the American League and kind of fizzled out. I believe he's scouting now. Some of my friends as scouts run into him here and there.
Yeah, he's quite the character. Yeah, he had a bunch of fights, and I had that. You got to ask about the UK guys, because I know the listeners always want me to do that. But
yeah,
another guy that played Niagara Falls that he actually went on, and I actually think if you add it all up, I believe he is hockey's all-time penalty minute leader, but I don't know if they'll count it all. But Jason Clark.
Yeah, I remember Clark. Yeah. There was a rat. There's your rat, but a little bigger than a Lindsman rat.
Yeah,
because he was a 200 and change guy, and but he played dirty, and he had to answer for a lot of the dirty stuff. But that's the way he played it, and you can tell from his minutes that he wasn't a one-trick pony. That was every game, for however many years he played. I don't think you could look at a year of his stats where he didn't have 200 or 300 minutes, if not more.
No, well, yeah, absolutely, and he definitely he definitely racked him up. We already talked about Stoyanov and stuff, but yeah, it's just been kind of interesting just going through the list and you see the old names and one of the in Guelph, of course, this is 16-year-old Todd Bertuzzi shows up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what was it like playing against him at that time? Like playing against him in the OHL?
So I knew Todd. We grew up in the same neighborhood. He was 2 years younger than me. We went to the same school. We walked back and forth at lunch together. He's got a sister my age. I knew Todd way before we even played hockey against each other in junior. But before he went to junior, he wasn't 6'4". He was like 5'4", and then right around like, let's say Major Bantam, he shot up like a rock, and his family's all tall. It was only a matter of time before the genetics kicked in. And then when he grew, the game came with him. He didn't have that awkward stage of filling into your body like maybe Darian Hatcher had in North Bay till he got his feet under him. He was everything grew at once, and everything went with him. He went right from being a small, skilled guy to a great, big, skilled guy, and dominated.
Did you so? Do you know him to this day? Do you still sort of stay in touch?
Yeah, if
with
I
him?
saw him, I wouldn't say I stayed in touch with him, but if I saw him around, for sure, we'd talk for sure. His sister still lives in town. He's still got family in town. A lot of guys that we went to school with are still in town, and they talk to him still. So every once in a while, I'll hear his name, but he doesn't come to Sudbury very often. I think he's playing hockey right now in the down in Cambridge in the senior league, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did Well, I was gonna ask you. Obviously, with you say Todd Bertuzzi, of course, the Steve Moore thing comes up. And,
Yeah.
Was that sort of a talk around town? Obviously, it'd be a talk around town or whatever. But I was gonna ask you, did you ever actually talk to him about it, or?
No, never. And no, I've never talked to him about it. But even it's blown so far out of proportion. The injury made it a thing, because that happens not every game. But that happened a lot back then. You did something, you had to answer for it. And, he came down wrong on his neck and he hurt him. He doesn't hurt him, there's probably nothing ever said about it.
No, if you had just fought him for the minute and a half,
right?
That he
If you would
asked
just,
you.
that's it. If you just would have grabbed him and thumped him instead of nothing happens.
Yeah. Oh, I've ranted about that a lot, and
And the worst case scenario, and he was a point guy. He didn't need to do it. I understand. Okay, I'm sure the coach put a big circle on that number and said, okay, this guy's going to get it, or something to that effect, right? And he just got too close. Bad luck.
Yep. No, yeah, it was unfortunate, and and there was a lot of time, and and I even. I've obviously on this show I've ranted about that a bunch of times, and I said I get it, but I'm like, I kind of got railroaded a little bit too. But I was just
right. I agree. I know the way I played. And I know that you need to be aware of who's on the ice and what's going on. So if he wasn't convinced that he was going to answer for that, whether he had to answer for it 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 times, whatever it is, you got to kind of know that you're going to be a target right now.
Well, and that was my thing.
Especially back then.
Yeah, and I was sort of like, man, why didn't Moore just fight him?
Right?
And then none of that would have happened, right? and
you
they're always like, oh, well,
lose.
And it was like, oh, Bertuzzi suckered him. I'm like, well, you're sort of taxing the definition of the word sucker when the guy skates around for a minute with you, telling you he's going to do it. I mean, I don't really think he suckered him. He told him he was going to do it. So it's like, now again, obviously bad result. Clearly, but I was always sort of I wasn't jumping on the let's shit on Bertuzzi bandwagon when all that happened.
No. And if he turns around and he chops them and whatever, nothing happens.
Yeah, but
we never hear about it.
No,
not to the extent of what it became, anyways.
No, but. Anyway, we'll move on here, but I could rant on that for a while. But one of the cats I want to ask you about, of course, went on. Well, he just got elected here to the Hall of Fame, but he was 16 years old at this time, playing in Peterborough. But Chris Pronger.
Pronger, yeah, he was back in the day. He was a toothpick.
Yeah,
I can remember too. And you got him at the time. He was probably 16, and at the time I was probably 19. And we were playing Joe Louis Arena, and it was an overtime game. And just the way it worked out, I'd come down the boards, and I'd cut behind net, and I threw it blindly out in front of net. We happened to score, so I just continued kind of down the boards, hot dogging for the crowd, pumping. And Pronger happened to be that far D man that I was coming towards. Well, he was 16, I was 19. I was probably 200. He was probably like 145 pounds, 6'6" back then. I just continued right on to the thing, and the way I played, ran into him, so I threw him around. If you want to call it a victory, sure. I gave it to him a little bit, and then I got that one under my belt. I did give the Hall of Famer Pronger a going over back in 1992, 93.
Well,
Jason Cullimore came to his rescue.
Well, I was going to say, with all the shit Pronger did over his career,
right?
That was an ass kicking. He deserved that ass kicking.
He became a dirty player. He wasn't when he was very small, like physically wise. There wasn't a lot to him till he got older.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, guy had a great career and everything else, but I hated Chris Pronger. I was just
Right?
like, will somebody kick the shit out of this guy, please? Because he couldn't fight worth a shit.
No,
I'm like,
right? Not when he was little.
No.
Or younger.
Yeah.
No.
And he was just dirty. And it was just like,
Yeah.
Even in the NHL, he just got away with it. He wouldn't fight. And I'm like, somebody kill this guy already. And it was just,
Right?
But he was the meal ticket, so no one was going to let you near him, right? So,
Right.
he drove me nuts, Pronger, but you're a great player. But,
Great player.
yeah, actually, his brother, Sean, who was good. Sean Pronger was a great player too. He was good
Yeah.
too. He actually wrote a really good book, which is pretty funny. If you ever have a chance to read Sean Pronger's book, pick it up. I can't remember what's it called, The Other Brother or something like that.
Yeah.
It's funny though. He tells some pretty good stories in there. But the Pronger, yeah. But
Like
I got
a Gretzky thing, right? Like a Gretzky thing. You got Wayne. Keith can't be Wayne. Brent can't be great. Right? Same kind of scenario.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like you say, played a little bit in the NHL, but it was never gonna. Yeah, just you had the deck stacked against you. But now go to North Bay, and of course, one of the guys I have to ask, like, he's definitely, when it comes to minor league tough guys, he's on my Mount Rushmore, and we briefly talked about him. It was Dennis Bonvie.
He was the strongest guy I ever played hockey against.
Really?
He could grab you with one hand, and he's telling you where to go. You're not going. He would just grab you, and that's it. You're done. Just a strong man. Him and Chironi used to fight, and to both their credits, they just beat the tar out of each other. And like, you watch a fight, and there's 20 punches and none land. They would throw 20 and 15 would land on the button. And they were. And I know Terry was a strong guy. I know Bonvie was a stronger guy. I remember coming into camp in Sudbury, and Chironi was bench pressing like 300 pounds. And yet at the time, he was like 17 years old. And I was like, Jesus, what have I get myself into in this league?
Yeah, well, and that was a crazy thing about Bonvie. And he did it for so long, and he fought everybody. But what is he, like 5'10"? Like,
maybe like 5'11". He's not 6 feet, right?
No.
He's not a tall dude.
No,
which was his, which derailed a longer NHL contract or career, I would imagine, because he just wasn't big enough, tall enough.
No. But yeah, just one of those this utterly fearless guys, and it's just,
fearless.
Yeah. But it's kind of crazy. You got him and Jason McDonald and Barton and Wade Gibson and all these guys on the same team. It's you got to remember their coach was a little wingnut too. So you get all those guys in the room, and you get them wound up by the bigger lunatic in the room, and they grow 6 inches when they're allowed to do what they want to do too. Bert was a crazy man. With Templeton, yeah. Well, they made the finals that year. I mean, they lost to the Sioux, but yeah, he could definitely wind him up.
Oh yeah, I can remember when we were in Detroit, we had a couple guys get traded. James Sheehan was one of them, and shoot, I can't think of the other guy's name. It'll come to me. And in Detroit, we had our own patterns. We had our own sticks. We had a practice rink. We had sauna. We had hot tub, workout rooms. And then they go to North Bay, get traded to North Bay, and they got to share plastic from their shin pads from the practice before, and they got like one broken stick on the stick rack. We'd have 8 per guy on the stick rack in Detroit. Like, they had a culture shock once they got out of North Bay, once they got to North Bay. And when the rumors were that Bert would get a cut, whatever he didn't spend on the budget, so he would nickel and dime sticks and tape and you name it. So those guys were like living on life support, and he'd wind them up. So they were twice as angry by the time they were ready to play.
Well, I was going to ask you. Of course, you're with Detroit. You're playing in Joe Louis Arena, so obviously the Red Wings are around.
Yeah.
Did you hang out with Probert or anything?
So he couldn't get into Canada at the time because of the situation. So the guys that wouldn't go on trips would skate with us. So Proby would skate with us. Gerard Gallant often would skate with us. Vincent Randu was the goalie. He'd skate with us. There was a couple other guys, a couple young D-men. They would skate with us all the time. And Proby would be there more than the rest of them because he wasn't allowed to go to Canada. But he was fun with the guys. treated everybody super nice, but you could tell when you talked to him and you looked at him that those were the eyes of a different individual.
Well, yeah. Well, and especially in those Detroit days, because obviously that was, well, we're talking.
And we also had Alice Iafredi was one of our secretaries in Detroit. So Al Iafredi was always skating with us in the summertime, and they befriended John Kordick. So John Kordick would be skating with us too when he couldn't find no one to play, and he skated with us into the season 1 year, where even our coaches were terrified of him. We'd come out in the middle of practice, all of a sudden the stereo would go on in our practice rink, and not just like a speaker, the entire building would go on with like rock tunes, and Tom Webster would be like, "What's going on?" And he'd just come popping out of the dressing room, no helmet on, wheel into practice, and they were so scared of him they wouldn't say anything to him. And he would just come on the ice, fuck up all the drills, and no one would say a word to John.
Did you ever like hang out with him and shit?
No, at the time I was underage. They would go to Canada.
Oh yeah,
I was living in the States. Yeah. No, I never got the opportunity to. I know Mitz used to hang out with him. Paul Mitten used to hang out with him. He was older.
Yeah.
The rest of us would have to sneak to Canada.
Did he ever? Oh, I'm sure he had a few stories. I'm sure.
He was. You were scared of him more than anything else. You were like outside of, "Hey, how you doing?" You were scared of him. He was another guy that you looked in his eyes and you weren't sure if anybody was home. And
yeah.
He was a monster of a guy. He was juiced up. I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
He'd been juicing for a period of time before that, because like he was a WWF wrestler. He wasn't He didn't look like a hockey player.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, was he social with you guys, or was it more just?
Oh
like,
yeah. Like he was on the team. Like he'd been on the team for the whole time. Yeah.
Did you ever, like, when Probert was out there, did you ever kind of like, you didn't go fight him, but I mean, did you ever ask him for any tips or anything, or?
What I would try to do is I'd try to skate with him on the line. So if there was a drill and he'd skate, I'd make sure I'd skate with him. So because if we screwed up, you're not going to get in shit if Proby screwed up.
That's true.
Right? Yeah. Right. So I would get in line. I'd shuffle myself in line to make sure. Okay, we're going. Okay, sure, perfect. That's why I won't get in shit. Perfect. Bro, let Proby fuck it up.
That's crazy. I completely forgot that you guys played Joe Louis. As soon as he said it, I was like, oh, the Red Wings had to be around then. Yeah.
When there would be times when we occasionally get to use the room when, depending on what was if they were out of town. Very rarely, but every once in a while we'd get to use the room too. So it was neat, right? You're an 18-year-old, you get to play in the Steve Eisenman's. You get to sit in the stall, so it was kind of cool.
Well, I was going to say that was going to be like, Eisenman and all those guys, Fedorov and all them. Like, was it? Did any of them like kind of fight? Did any of them big league you guys, or were they all pretty cool?
No, they were all pretty cool. And there was a lot of. They had it was called the Olympic Club there, so you had all the retired guys there also all the time. It was a pretty respectful, cool community of people in the Olympia Club. You'd have, like I said, all the old timers. Some of the Red Wings guys would be around, not very often, but now and again. And they were always super cool with everybody. They're all coming from the same situation themselves, right? They all got it, and they're professionals. It was cool. It was something that if you were in a different city, you didn't get that if you were playing in Cornwall or North Bay, right? We got opportunities that you wouldn't have got in other places, which was kind of neat.
Yeah, well, and like you said, and like those guys all went through it, right? And, especially the Ontario guys,
exactly,
which was a lot back. Eiserman and Probert and all those guys. I mean, they're all from there, so yeah, they'll obviously have a sort of a kinship with you guys too. So yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, like I said, I could throw names at you all night. We'll move you on to pro here anyway, but
sure.
Well, but a couple names I got to ask you, because I know Yuka's listening there in Finland, and he'd be pissed if I didn't ask you if you had any stories in Kingston. He was a young guy at the time, but went on. He was talking about big jacked up dude, but tough guy. But do you have any stories of Trevor Doyle?
Trevor Doyle. I remember him. I'm trying to think if he played in Thunder Bay or not. If that was the same Doyle. I can't remember. If I do remember Doyle, I'm just not sure if I played against him after junior.
No, he played in the American League and then the IHL.
And he would have been in the and he was when I was in Sudbury, they were in the same division, but when we were in Detroit, we were in the other division. We only played them once a year.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to ask. He'd be mad if I didn't, but well,
I remember him. I remember him though.
Yeah, well, and that was the year, of course, they had Chris Gratton, right, the 16-year-old at the time.
Correct.
And Kelly Corpse,
and Grat,
Dave Stewart,
yeah.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we were talking about Eric Cairns earlier, a guy that really got him, who was playing in Ottawa at the time, Ken Belanger. Yeah,
Yes.
I know he dropped Cairns.
And that's what, earlier I told you that it took him a while to iron some things out because he did take some lumps in junior, and Kenny Belanger was one of the guys that gave it to him. I remember Gowdy in the suit. I can't think of his first name. Gowdy. Brian Gowdy, another guy that he had difficulties with. Steve Webb, if you can remember Steve Webb.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was one guy that he never had any difficulty with, and he used to lay a beating on that poor kid every game. But to his credit, that Webb would come back every game, and Cairns would lay a beating on him every game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, like you said, and Cairns, of course, went on to have the big career. But, well, in your final year in junior, 92, 93, like you said, you guys, Webster's the coach. You guys make a bit of a run. You lose in the third round of the playoffs that year, but it was kind of a weird year. 66 games, but 6 goals. A little snake bit this year with the 6 goals. Did you kind of? Did you? No, I don't want to say you regressed, but was it a little tougher year, or would you just get it put in a different role, or just wasn't getting the time, or?
We had that one PP that just was on fire.
Yeah.
So that it's hard to explain, but it is. We didn't not score on the power play, so the PP time was extremely limited as a 19-year-old. And I know that there was when I was a 19-year-old, I did have a few meetings with Tom and with Paul Maurice, and there was some interest in me going here and there, but they wanted to keep me because they felt that going deeper in the playoffs and on having a third line, and I still had decent wheels. I could at least my speed was an asset, so they wanted to keep me. So, and I thought we were going to make a good run at it too. So I had no issues staying. Sure, I would have liked to play a little bit more, but I was thinking championship at the time also.
Well, you're almost right. And it was.
And we lost Peaker that year. He broke his heel in the second round against London. If he doesn't break his heel, maybe things would go different, because we lost in 6 to the Sioux without Peaker. Maybe we steal it if Peaker's still around.
Yep. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, well, you kind of mentioned it briefly earlier, but I got, again, another UK guy that I got to ask you about. Of course, he played forever over there, was Darren Hurley.
Oh, beauty. Another guy. We only had him for part of the last year he was there, but another guy that when we got Darren from Belleville, everybody grew a couple inches.
Yep.
Yeah, he was that kind of guy. He was scary tough. He didn't fight a lot, but when he did, it was like a Lucic. He was like our Lucic.
Yeah.
He was that guy. He didn't want to be let's call it a fighter, sure, whatever. He wanted to play, but he could fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another guy you got that I always say, you say in the NHL, he didn't fight a lot, but when he did, he was good at it. Jamie Allison.
Oh, he was a good fighter. He was a good fighter. He could fight both hands, and we used to tease him all the time. We used to make fun of us. It looked like a monkey, and he didn't care if he got hit in the face. It was done when he was young. He didn't care, but if he had to take one or not. But he was good. He was ambidextrous. He could use both hands, and he was tough. And even in the NHL, he was a tough player. He was another farm boy. It's a different strength. Those farm guys.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And at this point, like you said, you guys have the run there. You're going 19 now. You're going into your 20-year-old year. Was it sort of like was the plan? Well, and then I was gonna say you go to Laurentian University. Actually, you end up going to play university hockey. But Was that by choice, or did you want to stick around for a 20 in the OHL, or was it just like maybe I should get an education?
I went back. Yeah, no, I went back to Detroit as an overager, and the intention was that I was going to stay there. And in training camp, they offered to trade me to Owen Sound for Jordy Maynard, and I said I didn't want to go. And so ipso facto, they kept Uvari, a Czech defenseman. And at the time, when I was in Detroit, there were schools calling me and yada yada, and I had an opportunity to go to Dalhousie out east. But then Laurentian University called, and I was from. They weren't even calling for me; they actually called for my roommate, where I was living, Tony McCabe. And when I answered the phone, and I was talking, I knew the guy on the phone. He was like, "Hey, Stu Dunking, that's JD. Any interest in coming to Laurentian?" I said, "Well, if you can get me in late," and that's kind of how I ended up at Laurentian. They got me in late. I didn't want to go to Owen Sound, and so I ended up going back to Laurentian late, and then I played at Laurentian for about a year and a half, and then that was the end of my Laurentian as well.
Well, and I was going to say, like, I mean, you can sit here forever, and we can always talk about the road not traveled, but do you regret not taking the Owen Sound deal, or were you happy you went to school?
Yeah, I had no intentions of going on. I didn't want to go there. They were no good anyways, so it wasn't like had an opportunity at anything other than maybe playing a little bit. Yeah, playing a little bit more, and we would have got dusted every game. So I don't think it would have worked out any better if I did or I didn't. I know that when I was at Laurentian, I was still getting looks, and Team Canada yanked some guys to play exhibition games, and I had opportunities to do that, and things didn't work out. And there was other teams too that contacted me when I was at Laurentian. I just didn't stick around Laurentian long enough to see it through. I had an opportunity come up, and I took it, and I left school.
Wow, and then here we go.
Yeah,
and now we're going to talk about the saga of turning pro with JD Eaton. Okay, we're back. Well, I was going to ask you before we get into the Colonial League and everything. When you're at Laurentian, I mean, so now you've left the Ontario League with La Puma and Bonvie and all the craziness. Now you're into a league you can't fight.
And that was a problem too, because I got into a couple, and it leads to suspensions in university hockey, and the season's so short that the 16 game regular season, if you a couple fights and you missed 4 games, that's you're missing a third of your quarter of your season. That was part of the problem at playing university hockey also.
Yeah, and I mean, and for those that don't know, up here anyway. Well, I don't know about you guys. Still wore the half visors though, right?
No, there was full.
You had to wear cages?
Was full it started. That was full back then. Yeah.
Oh, so that makes it even worse.
Right. Yeah. Now everyone's a tough guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here before we get, I won't get too far on the soapbox here, but it's like, so you always get this. Well, if they wear full cages, no fighting, it's cleaner.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's the answer right there without saying it, folks. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Right.
Well. Okay, so you're in university, we're getting a higher education, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and it's the Utica Blizzard of the Colonial Hockey League. What? How did that happen? How did Utica get? Did you get a hold of them? Did they get a hold of you? How did your journey end up? How did you end up in the Colonial League?
I was playing hockey in the late winter, let's go, in the spring, and there was a buddy of mine from Sudbury that was already playing pro. His name is Ron Bertrand. He's a goalie. He played North Bay, played minor leagues for years. And anyways, he was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm at Laurentian." He goes, "You want to come play in Utica?" It was almost that simple. I'm like, "Well, what do you mean, want to come play in Utica?" He goes, "Well, here, I'll come tomorrow. I know the coach. We'll give him a call. I was there last year." Next day, I talked to Donnie Martin, who was a player assistant at the time, and he's like, "Any interest in coming down?" Yep. Okay. See you at the end of September. It was that quick. That was it. Signed that day, and that was it. Showed up 2 weeks before camp to get in shape, and that was it. That's the long and short. That's everything. Cole's notes, long version. That's it. No more than a conversation.
Well, there we go. And okay, Now here we go. This is the part of the interview that I was waiting for. Here we're going to talk about the Colonial League. And I love the Colonial League and the characters that you played with. And I didn't even realize it because he never actually played a game with you guys. But you said off air before we got going, "Oh, I lived with that guy." Who was your roommate in Utica?
Well, for a short, brief stint was Link, the missing Link Gates.
Tremendous,
for sure, tremendous. And there's a million stories about the guy. I liked the guy. We got along super well. He never played though when he was in Utica. The first night he came to town, we go out and Link decides he's going to get into a fight. And so Link doesn't take on a bouncer, he takes on the bar. Well, that doesn't go well for Link, so by the end of the night he gets arrested. First night in town. I don't know what to say. Do we tell the coach what's going on? At the time our coach was Donnie Martin. So Donnie got him out of jail the next morning, brings Link to the rink. Link goes on the ice, skates down the ice, skates back down the ice, leaves the ice. No one really knows what's going on. We go out that night. He takes one of the guy's cars, crashes it. Comes to the rink next day, says he has a head problem, is demanding insurance. And if he doesn't get insurance, that he's not going to play. Well, they didn't give him any insurance. But Link stayed for like a month and just kind of hung out in Utica and hung out at my place for the month and go for lunch, come back, he'd want to go out. Come back next day, same kind of thing. But he knew Jeff Krupp, our owner at the time, and I guess he just kept trying to weasel some more money out of him and get some money out of him, and they refused to give him any insurance money. And after about a month, I guess Link had enough and he left. But even then, he had run-ins with guys on the team. Just like it's no surprise, booze-filled mistakes and arguments where it turned into disasters. There was one, and I won't say the guy's name, but at one point the guy went into a corner store to buy a knife so that he would be able to protect himself in case Link came after him. That's how bad it was when Link got wound up. He turned into a very scary individual.
Yeah, well, and I mean, to be serious for a second, I mean, and that's a sad story because the guy should have had a 15-year NHL career,
right?
Unfortunately.
Yes.
But, yeah, and I've heard that from a lot of guys that I've had on the show and everything. Sober, nicest guy in the world. Great.
Right?
As soon as alcohol touches lips, it's like instant asshole.
And then he leaves us, and about 2 weeks later, we go play in Madison. And as we're bringing all our gear into the rink, the Zamboni's doing laps around the bottom, like the concourse of the arena, and like no one was going. Link had somehow got the keys to the Zamboni. He was in Madison at this time, and was driving the Zamboni all around, outside the door, and all around, and no one would stop him. They were terrified. They just let him do what he wants.
Oh, well, that's yeah. Well, I was gonna say, as his roommate, and I mean, obviously he would come home, or you were out with him, but or else he'd come home all booze. Did JD Eaton and Link Gates ever drop the gloves in the living room?
Never. We got along great.
Oh yeah,
we had the same interests. We liked to have a good time and whatever, and we just kind of piggybacked off each other. I'd been in town for a month or so, or 2 months, so I knew my way around a little bit, and I knew quite a few people in town by this point, and that just kind of broke the ice for him to go to wherever we wanted to go. We had places where we'd go for lunch, and of course there's people that work there, and there's girls that work there, and he liked to meet everybody, and he was a fun guy. Just you didn't want to get on his bad side, but like you said earlier, he had some demons, and you might not even realize you're on his bad side before it's too late.
Yeah. Well, it was funny when I was doing the research on you here, and I was just kind of going over the, Hockey DB and going through the stats and reading some old newspaper articles and stuff. And Jesus, this Utica team, man, you talk about some names that went through here in terms of like tough guys and stuff. But one guy I wanted to ask you about, and he's kind of a peculiar case, and I don't know a lot about. Like, I know he was in the NHL for a while, and he had NHL talent, and I don't know what. But Shane Stevenson.
Oh, good friend of mine. I talked to Shane just the other day. He, you're right, NHL talent, and just made some like we talked about earlier, guys are a dime a dozen, and you make one mistake, and now you're blackballed, and you're that guy. And I think that's kind of what happened to Shane. He was a player, and he embraced the good sides of hockey a little too much, and I think that kind of blackballed him once he moved on.
Yeah. Well, what a talent!
But I can even remember in Utica, even when the coach I can remember Jeff Krupp and Donnie Martin giving him a hard time, and I remember him barking back, telling him, "You guys don't understand. If I play good, I'm going to get called up. You guys are lucky I'm here."
Yeah,
that was his answer all the time. Yeah.
Another guy that was. Well, you had a couple tough guys, and unfortunately, he just played a few games with you guys that year, and unfortunately, he just passed away recently. Do you have any memories of Jacques Mayotte?
Oh yeah, the mailman, Jacques. There was a tough son of a gun right there. He had Jacques was a different bird. He was a French guy right from Quebec, and he had some intricacies about himself. I remember the one time he wanted to get hair plugs in his hair, and the hair plugs wouldn't work, and he scarred up his whole head. And then he would be for how tough he was. Guys would pick on him all the time, like do little tricks, and like they'd cut his pants, or they'd file down his stick, or they'd do something, and they'd wind this guy up, and like, you don't want to wind this guy up. He was a menace. He was the toughest guy in the minor leagues that I played with, for sure. He had more tricks up his sleeve. He knew how to fight. He didn't pull punches, and he hit hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I knocked up one day in practice. I knocked him out. Not in a fight. We were screwing around, and I got my stick caught in between the glass, 2 panes of glass, and I was up next in the gym, and I was fighting to get my stick out of the glass. And just as Jacques was behind me in line, and so he was getting fed up that I wasn't going, so he jumped ahead of me to go in. But just as he jumped ahead of me, I got my stick out. But when I got my stick out and came around, he took the butt end right between the eyes. And he went down like a sack of potatoes, and all I could think of is, I am dead. When this guy comes to, I am dead. By the time he gathered himself and got up, he was so angry, he threw his stick into the stands, and he left the ice, and everyone just was staring at me like, you're dead, kid. I don't know what the fuck happened. What did you do? And I was just a total fluke, but I couldn't have hit him any cleaner, right square between the eyes. To his credit, he didn't say anything. But it was water under the bridge, but I thought I was going to have to answer for that, and I was scared shitless.
Well, another guy you said that you lived with, that he was a tough dude too, and of course he's coaching now, and was Jason Payne.
Oh, the House of Payne, yeah. Jason Payne was he lived with us in Utica too. He was another tough guy. One of the first games he had with us, he handed it to Engelstad really good, and that kind of just set him on, a rocket ship as far as fighting. He obviously wasn't much of a player. He wasn't a threat to score, but he was tough, and he threw hard. He was an easygoing, nice guy too. We moved him right out of his room. He didn't have a room. We moved him out of his room, and we put a ping pong table in the room. He lived on the couch so we could party in the ping pong room.
How would another Garrett Burnett?
At the same time, we had Garrett Burnett living with us too.
There you go.
And he was even crazier. He would eat what's an A535. He would eat A535 before the game.
What? Oh.
He would lather himself up, and he'd lick it off his hand. He was crazy, and again, a guy that didn't want to touch the puck. There was no reason for him to have a hockey stick, but a big man.
Yeah. Well, how about Mike Bajorny?
Badge. I played with Badge a couple different places. I
Yep.
played with him in Waco. I played with him in Utica. An unassuming, tough guy. If you had a conversation with him, and you probably have, you would not think that this is a man that's going to knock your head off your shoulders. But he was that guy that could knock your head off your shoulders. Very intelligent guy, but he enjoyed fighting.
Yeah. Richard.
Another guy that wanted to play too. Like, he was a guy that wanted to play, but just the skills weren't there, and his skills were pugilism, wasn't stick handling.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And Richie Walcott.
Oh, yeah, another tough guy, right? We had a lot of tough guys in Utica.
Yeah, you did.
Richie was a tough guy too. He was in and out, like he was there. He didn't play a lot, but I played with him and against him over the years. Richie was a tough guy. I liked Richie.
Well, and of course this, at the time, 9-team league, and I mean it was, man, I could imagine some of the brawls and everything that you guys had back then. But the team that year that won of course, the Flint Generals. Robbie Nichols coaching, wins the championship. Mm-hmm. Robin Bouchard, Kevin Kerr, Brian Sakic, as we talked about. Gary St. Cyr, Jimmy Duhart. You had to have had some run-ins with these guys.
Oh yeah, a lot of Kersey was fun to play against. We all the time he was a dirty rat, but he was tough. He was like a piece of leather. Dewey, I played with Dewey in Saginaw, and I played against him. And I'll give you a Dewey story. Dewey had a falling out in Saginaw with our coach John Blum when they got into fisticuffs. So ended up that they got rid of Dewey. Dewey goes to Madison. First game in Madison, Blummer pulls me aside and he goes, you're going to have to fight your buddy tonight. And I'm all for that aspect of hockey, but you're not going to make me fight my buddy because you don't get along with him. So we line up and he's like, hey, I go, well, Blummer sent me out here. And he goes, we're going to have to go. And he's like, what the fuck? I go, nah, we'll put on a show. And it was the only time that I ever dropped the gloves. It was just a show. We threw some noogies, fell down on the ice, made it look like it was semi-real. And just to get the coach off my back, because he was like, you're not about to fight your buddy. You're not going to fight. It had nothing to do with my buddy. It had to do with your personal vendetta against him because you got mad 6 weeks ago. And it was a farce. That was a farce. But Dewey was a good guy and a tough guy. And I still talk to him today. He runs some alumni games. Actually, we played one in Quad Cities 2 years ago, and the arena was all sold out. There was like 10,000 people in the arena for an alumni game.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. It would have been like a playoff atmosphere in the building. It was unreal. And all those guys came back. There's a ton of guys there too. And they did another one last year with the Red Wings. So every now and again, I get to see these guys later in life, and it's kind of cool, especially the guys like Dewey and the tough guys. Christian Scarlettis was another guy I got to see recently. Actually, Peaker played in the game. A lot of the guys we talked about have played in these little alumni games here and there. The hockey community is a small community, right? When you think about it, everyone kind of knows everybody, and it's funny. 20 years or 24, how many years later it is. And you go back and you see these guys, and it's like you haven't missed a day.
Yeah.
Right? It's where you're right back to where you were.
Yeah, you pick up the conversation you were just having, right? Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another team there I didn't realize, and I didn't realize he had played in the league at the time, but in Brantford, they had Herb Raglan and Wayne Muir.
Yep. Raglan was another where we talk about the farm boy strength or the Bonvie strength. Raglan had like the butcher strength, man. He was another man beast. He was too strong for that league.
Well,
I don't think anyone wanted to go near him.
Yeah, and then coming off the NHL run too, right? So yeah. I was going to ask you at this time, though, so you come out of college, you probably had some pent-up aggression coming out of college, but,
sure.
58 games, you had 184 minutes, obviously. At this point now, you're not junior anymore. Now you're fighting, like, men, and some of these guys, like you said, are, like, killers. You got Bruce Ramsey and Mel Engelstad and, Mayotte and Link and all these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, did you sort of have to kind of check yourself a little bit, oh boy, I better not. Were you much more conscious of maybe kind of sticking in your weight class, or was it just like, whatever, I'll run around and fight everybody, I don't give a shit? Or
kind of a little of that, kind of a little. I know that, like in Thunder Bay, you mentioned I had several fights with Rammer, but I never had one with Mel. It just seemed the word you mentioned Bryce Davidson earlier when we were in Saginaw together. It just seemed like Bryce had Mel, and I had Rammer but again, we had Jacques, and we had Richie, and we had Shane, and we had Jason Payne, and we had like Garrett Burnett. Like, we had a murderer's row of guys before they get to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And like you said, there was lots of brawls. Like you watch hockey in NHL now, and you know, if you see one fighter, and they're not that they're staged, but it's a little different now than what it was before. You don't get 5-on-5s. And that was something that happened, you know, consistently. The bench clearing brawls, the brawls in the hallways, brawls in the dressing rooms, like that's gone the way of the dodo bird, obviously, with the way things are in 2025. But that was nothing back then. That was just another day.
Well, I was gonna say, did you have any good off ice brawls? Did you ever rumble?
Oh, we had some in Quad Cities. In Quad Cities, we had like right down through the hallways. In Saginaw, we had it right under the concourse, the main mezzanine of the rink. In Flint, there's fights where I know the Port Huron games, the fans came right down out of the bleachers into the Port Huron's bench, and a couple fans got dummied. In the one game we had, we got to a Flint, and it went in behind into the dressing rooms, in behind the benches, and there were some off-duty police officers in plain clothing that got dummied too, not telling us who they were. Like, and it was bad. There was like, at the end, no one got charged with anything serious, but there was some serious charges at first with some of the security guard and the policemen who were getting dummied in the hallway as well as the guys fighting. Today, that makes the newspaper and the news, and then you don't play hockey no more.
Oh, exactly. Well,
right? Well,
yeah. Well, and I said I had read the article about you. All it says is J.D. Eaton gets into stick swinging incident with fan in Quad City.
Yeah, Quad Cities. Yeah.
What happened with the stick thing?
We had a brawl, and earlier in the road trip, we were in Dayton, Ohio, and I broke my hand in a fight. I had broken my baby finger like on the side of my hand, so I had a partial cast on, and I wasn't supposed to play. But we were short a player or two, so John Blum was the coach. He told me, "You're dressing." He goes, "If we get a bench penalty or something, you're going to serve." I didn't have shoulder pads on. I couldn't have played, so I just had my jersey on and my pants and my shin pads. And sure shit, we're coming off between the second period, and they had a guy on their team, Mark McFarland.
Yep.
And we had a guy on our team, Painter, who were African American, and there was comments made, and it turned into a gong show. So we're coming off the ice, and it's all where the fans are all hanging down, and they're hanging off the rink, and all of a sudden everything starts getting thrown down on top of us. Popcorn, pop, beer, you name it. And that's what happened. I turned back, and as a warning shot, just kind of wrapped my stick against the railings to back them up. And of course, it gets caught, and I'm suspended for fan altercation. No one was hurt. I didn't hit anybody, but it was just a warning shot off the railing, and the wrong people saw it, and I ended up with a week 7 days suspension without pay.
Oh.
But it's just fine, because my coach realized that he was the one that started it with the first disaster, so they took care of me for that week. I had a steady diet of Old Country buffet 3 times a day with some per diem money thrown at me to make up the loss.
There you go.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't have been playing anyway, so I put it back on him. It was his fault.
Yeah, all the minors. One cat I wanted to ask you with, you played with briefly, but he ended up this year, he kind of finished the season with Detroit, the Falcons, but Darren Banks.
I never played with him. He was there at a different time. I played against Banksy, and we have some mutual friends, so we'd have spent some time together over the years, like years and years ago. Him and John Blum were good buddies, but I didn't play with Darren.
Oh, no?
Only against him, yeah. I played against him when he was with the Detroit Falcons, and then when he was in Utica, I was not there anymore.
That's a big dude too, man.
He was a heavy dude, yeah.
Yeah. For those folks, you want to hang out with Darren Banks, he is a casino host in Las Vegas now at the D on Fremont Street.
Is he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bank. You can bank on the tank. Bank's the tank.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
While you're talking, like out in Muskegon, I'm sure things got rowdy in Muskegon a few times.
With the Melancons, yes.
Yep, that was going to be the Melancons, and Well, another guy, of course, NHL fans will remember Wes McCauley, referee Wes McCauley. He was playing in that, playing for them at the time. And, of course, Steve Webb, we talked about him. He was there. And Jamie Hearn from BC.
Yeah, Jamie Hearn, He's a good player.
Yep. Kyle Havlin. Yeah, it's just like I said, Thunder Bay. How was that trip to? Well, you're an old Ontario guy, but how was that trip to Thunder Bay?
You know what? Everyone hated those trips. I loved them. For me, and the way it was in Utica, those were like 2-week trips. So the first thing about a 2-week trip is you don't spend any money. So when you get back after 2 weeks, you got 2 full checks. But I loved Thunder Bay. It was intense, and it was a ride. It was you're ready to play. It was like going to Sault Ste. Marie and Junior. It was no different. You're ready to play. You know who's on that team. You know what it's going to be like. It's 40 below outside. The boards are as hard as rock. Here it comes. Get ready.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, and like they got Bruce Ramsey and Jason Disher and Mel, and and Darren Perkins, and then Brandon Christian. There's another guy.
Monster, another big dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Warden, even when Warden played there a year prior, like they were, like it was a place people didn't want to play. Yeah, I'm sure there's many games they won before the puck was dropped, just knowing that here we go.
No, absolutely. One name that keeps coming up. I know you played with him briefly, and he's bounced around all over the place. He's a big dude too. Jody Murphy.
Yeah, Jody. I played against him a little bit, and I played with him for a little bit. He was the quiet giant, very soft spoken, didn't really say too much, but was just such a behemoth of a man. I think he fell into the role.
Yeah.
Just out of pure size. He was just a monster of a man.
Yeah.
But a nice guy. Like, you would never know that guy played hockey or would want to fight anyone if you talked to him off the ice.
Well, huge dude, man. Like I've done. You sent me some newspaper articles about Murphy, and he had a crazy ride through pro hockey, man. He got some shenanigans with that guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the following year, you end up in Saginaw. And 64 games. Hey, look at this: 22 goals, 34 assists, but 301 minutes in penalties.
Yeah.
Was this a conscious effort on your part, or did it just sort of happen that way?
I was getting a little bit more ice time, so with the more ice time came the more everything else kind of bled into one. I played with Bryce Davison that year in Saginaw, and I'm sure he had like 400 or almost 500 minutes, I think, or very close to it.
440,
440. So there was, and we were roommates, so it was almost a one better. So if Bryce got in one, well, I got to get in one too. We're gonna have nothing to talk about when we get home tonight.
Yeah, I've had Bryce on the show before, way back in the day. Great guest, and he did say I know he talked about fighting Ingolstadt a few times, and
Oh yeah, and he was a guy for whatever reason he got him every game.
Yeah, that's what he said. I don't think he wanted it, but he went looking. That's how it ended up anyway. But you got any Davidson stories? I know he's listening.
Yeah, perfect. Oh, I got one. Here's one story for you. So we roomed together. So I come home one night, and I can hear this bang, 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 bang in the room. So I'm like, what the hell is he doing? So I open the door, and he's sleeping. But he's sleeping, and he's smashing his head into his pillow. Like, headbutt. And I watched it for like a minute. So I'm like, I better not wake him up. I don't know what's going on. So I wait the next day, and I'm like, Bryce, I go, I walked into your room last night. I go, and you're smashing your head off the bed. And he just starts laughing. He was like, I've been doing that since I was a kid. I'm like, well, why? Nobody can tell me. I'm like, oh my God, nobody can tell you. But it made sense to me because when he would fight all those guys, he wasn't one to pull punches. He wasn't a guy that block punches or right. He was like, "I got you, you got me. Let's throw and see who's going to go down first." And I'm saying this guy even does it in his sleep. He beats himself up in his sleep, and he had some sort of sleeping issue where this was a commonality, and I would often go there and he'd be pounding his head into the bed like uncontrollably, not waking himself up.
Well, yeah, there you go. There's the guy you want on the road. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. No, but he was Bryce was a beauty to play with. There was one guy, and we do send a message once in a while to each other and text here and there, but unfortunately we haven't been able to meet up since. But I would love to get together with Bryce one day and just shoot the breeze again one more time.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's a great guest. Good dude. You talked about Blum. What was? Did you get along with him, with John Blum, your coach?
Yeah, very well. Oddly enough, very well. He was a loose cannon, to say the least. He had like a lot of guys back then. Everyone has demons and shadows and whatever you want to call them, but we got along really, really well, and it probably helped me a lot when I was in Saginaw. Because of that relationship we had, that I got opportunity to play. I played the way that he wanted me to play, and it was the more I was willing to do all those things, the more I was rewarded with playing. So it kind of worked out. Would everyone, every coach feel that way? Maybe not. But John was a former player and a former, maybe not a tough guy, but he played tough. And he appreciated that, and it probably got me more ice time than I probably deserved that year.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I mean, he kind of played that way too, so I imagine he probably saw. Yeah, he probably had. Yeah, exactly. You're kind of his style, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, I was one guy just looking at your team here, like, kind of looking at the team. Also, that Mark Green, 80 goals.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's how I got to Saginaw. I played with him in Utica, and he came to Saginaw the following year, and that's how he called me to come down there. He had a shot like no one I ever played with, for a forward anyways, and he could get it off anywhere. There's games he played with a broken ankle one game, he scored 4 goals. He never left the hash mark. It would just be a power play, get the puck, bank, goal. He just had that shot.
Yeah.
And then you see 80 goals. Well, how come he can't? What's he spinning his wheels in these leagues if he's scoring 80 goals a year? Couldn't skate.
Yeah.
But he could score.
Just knew how to get open. Yeah.
That's it. He just had to get open.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
He could shoot the puck. And if you saw his stick or you tried to use the stick, he couldn't use it. It had this stupid shovel curve on it and this humongous knob, and because he had a cannon, so you're like, well, give me that stick, let me see. And no, I don't even know how he played with this thing. It was like a boomerang, but it worked for him.
Yeah. Well, a couple more names I want to throw out. Did you ever have any, because he played here in Saskatoon forever, Sean Yakimishin?
No, I played against Yak. We were kind of a similar style player.
Yeah,
I might have been a little taller, but a similar style player. We never had any. Oddly enough, never had any altercations between the two of us, which is kind of ironic since we kind of played the same way.
Well, yeah,
right, and we played in a lot of the same play. A lot of these names get like regurgitated, right? And like. For whatever reason, and Yak had some good years with Pimps too, and we just never, for whatever reason, we just never crossed paths in that way.
That is interesting. Well,
because most guys like Kevin Kerr was not and like it was every day game when we're at each other's throat.
Yeah. Well, this year, your second year, Port Huron's in the league, and a couple cats on their team. Curtis Saylor.
Oh yeah, I just saw Saylor a couple weeks ago in the alumni game I went to. He was Curtis was a cool cat. He was a different bird, but he was another guy that wasn't confused by his role, and he embraced it. He loved it. Sorry, I'm trying to find words to explain. But another guy who couldn't care less if he touched the puck. He knew why he was there, and he was ready to. He was going to fight. every game. That was what he was there to do, and he was going to do it.
Yeah, well, he was good at it. Yeah.
And when we played against each other, we fought all the time. Then we ended up playing together.
Well, I was gonna say, like, how did those fights go for you?
I got not bad. I got an old tape kicking somewhere. The one game we had 3 in the one game, and you could ask each guy, and each guy probably thinks they won 2-1. Where there's 2 that one went each way, and then the third one, I like to think I won, and he likes to think he won. But it's 3 good tilts in one game. That's pretty good.
That is very good. You got tape of that stuff?
I got old VHS kicking around here some places, and it's a matter of putting it to digital file. Yeah, I got to find those things and dig those things out.
You do have to do that. That is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about that after. Yeah.
I got some good ones in there somewhere.
How about Jason Renard?
You know what? And kind of like the yak thing. Jason and I got traded for each other the one year. I was in Saginaw, he was in Port Huron, and we got traded for each other. And even after that, you would think there'd be, and we still, I'd go out back to Saginaw frequently because it's just only it's like an hour and a half down the road. And, I'd still hang out with some of those guys, and me and Rennie became buddies hanging out. We got traded for each other, didn't know each other, and kind of became buddies hanging out in Saginaw. To this day, I still trade a text with him once in a while, and we shoot the breeze, but no, never. But he was a tough guy too. Yeah. He was another guy you had to pay attention to because he could hurt you.
Yeah, it's on my YouTube channel. He folds Ken Tasker in the creek.
Yeah, he threw hard.
In Thunder Bay one night, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is the year Quad City won it. And I know, like you said, you had lots of run-ins with Quad City, but of course, he said they had Mark McFarland and another guy they had, Howie Rosenblatt.
Yeah, Howie was a tough guy. And Howie was a more of an American League guy, right? Spent some time in Cincy and some other places, but Howie was a tough guy too. He was there, but he could play. Howie could play. But he was tough too. They had McFarland was another guy, but they had this Tucker, D-Man.
Yeah, Travis Tucker.
Another guy that looked like a WWF wrestler. If you saw him walking in the ring, you wouldn't think he was going there to play hockey. You think he was there for the wrestling matches. Another huge dude. He was the guy that I was more worried, but they had worried about than McFarland and they had Kerry Toporowski also. That was their that was their big dude that you had to worry about because you didn't know what he was going to do.
He was crazy, and of course, Thunder Bay this year, Mel's still kicking around. Rammer had gone up to the IHL that year, so they had to fill his spot with Kevin Holliday. Did you ever have any run-ins with Holliday?
Yeah, but again, that was for whatever reason, no different than when Bryce would fight Engelstad. It seemed like Bryce fought him every game also. Yeah, between the two of them, he was just worried at the what's his name? I can't think. He just said his name. Thunder Bay guy. He was more worried about majors. He didn't care. He'd fight 100 times. Just he wanted to see his name at the top of the list for majors.
Oh, Holiday.
There used to be the stat sheet that go around before the game. Everyone would look at it. And the Holiday was just concerned about majors. There'd be the leading majors and the whatever 32, 31. He had to be that top guy. So if someone had 33 and he was 31, you knew he was fighting 3 times that game to come back to the lead.
Mm-hmm. Well, I always just laugh. That's how crazy it was. I'm looking at his stat. Yeah, it's 69 games. He had 403 penalty minutes. How do you have 403 minutes? You don't lead your team. Engelstad had 422.
Right. And they didn't. And those people always ask, well, they don't count tens in those stats. That's either fights or 2-minute penalties. There's no tens in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the year Madison, of course, this is when Link's playing with him, like you said, driving the Zamboni around the rink. But they also have Dave the Hammer Schultz as a coach.
The coach, right?
Yeah.
So what does that tell you about the league? Not even what do you think is going to happen in that game?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Did he ever get like kind of into it with you guys? Like you said, you had bench brawls and all that stuff. Was he a big yapper?
No. The only guy that was really a yapper was Robbie Nichols. He was about the only guy in those. There was Blummer would yip a little bit, but Robbie Nichols was the yapper. And you know what? To in part and parcel, when thinking back, it's entertainment, and he was an entertainer.
Yep.
He added that to the game, to the show. It was part of the show.
No, well, yeah, absolutely, and it's exactly, and and he's still doing it to this day. I mean, Topeka
To this day.
just got that new team in the Federal League. Who's their coach? Robbie Nichols, right? So, and he's already got them all fired up down there, and he's
when we played in the alumni game in Quad Cities 2 years ago, and he was our coach, and for the alumni game, it was like he hadn't missed a beat. He'd got the fans wound up. He started the "Let's Go Generals" chants. It was comical. He was firing the crowd up just like he did 25 years ago.
Tremendous. I love it.
Cummerbund and his suit and his outfits.
And he's just like, I don't mean it in like a derogatory way, but it's like he's Carney, right? Like he's the minor leagues, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Like absolutely. That's a good way to explain it.
Yeah, well, because it's like that shit ain't flying in the NHL.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Or
not,
even the American
League. For a minute.
Yeah.
No, not for a minute. No.
So like you said, the 1 year there, you're in Saginaw and Port Huron, and are you I don't want to say are you tired of the fighting, but is it sort of like, does it ever get like where it's like, Jesus, does this shit ever end? Like it's just crazy.
Never felt like that for me. It was just another game. To be honest with you, I'm sure there's times when I'm sure I was tired. I'm sure there's times when I was hurt and like, shit, is this gonna right? But I can't think of a time where I didn't want to do it. That was just part of the way that I played. I played hard and I played dirty and I played mean, and sometimes you got to answer the bell when you play that way, and that's why we wear equipment. That's what I thought.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, 98, 99, you try something. You head out to the Central League to Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. Was it time to get out of the cold and go somewhere warm? Is that how you ended there?
What happened was I was in Port Huron, and I had an opportunity to go to Dusseldorf, Germany, and the season was shorter in Europe. So, and you're paid weekly, right? So there would have been more money for me to stay, and I was kind of like humming with Port Huron, nickel and diming for this and that. And I had a friend who I'd played roller hockey with in Fort Worth, and I'm like, Mike Krushenitsky is the coach. I said, well, tell him to give me a call. Gives me a call. Hey, any interest in coming down here? I'm like, sure. He goes, what'd you make last year? And I threw out a number that was not even close to what I made last year. And he said, well, we can give you that here. And I said, send me the papers. And that's how I ended up down in Fort Worth. Because I had intentions of going to Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was the Central League at that time different than the Colonial League, or was it the same?
No, it wasn't as tough, let's say. Where in the Colonial League, I was down the depth chart of the team for where I stood. In the Central League, I was right at the top. There was not a lot of guys on many teams that were going to put any fear into anybody. You didn't have a Mel, you didn't have a Bajorny, you didn't have the Mayotte, you didn't have those guys down there. For whatever reason, I don't know, maybe they couldn't pay them, or because the weather is great. I'm assuming they just didn't want to go there for the money.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, the weather's good. You're not plugging the car in, that's for sure.
No, never.
And then like in Oklahoma, they had the big building there and good crowds.
Yeah, all the time, yeah.
And you're playing San Antonio, Wichita, Topeka, Tulsa. I mean,
I can remember my parents came down to Fort Worth, and they're whole humming. They come to Saginaw and they see 2,000 people, and then they go to Brantford and they see like 1,800 people, and they're like, how long do you think you're going to do this? And then they came down for Christmas, and I was in Fort Worth, and we went to Oak City, and Mike Krushenitsky was my coach, and I said, hey, my parents in town, you mind if they take the bus to Oak City for Christmas? He's like, yeah, whatever, fine. So my parents came to Oak City, and we walked into Oak City, and it was let's say it held 12,000, whatever it held, and there was like 11,000 people there on Christmas Day, and my mom was like, geez, no wonder you don't want to come home. I'm like, there you go. Oak City would have been a great place for anyone to play.
Yeah, well, and they got Sauter as the coach, and he's an old Saskatchewan guy. It's like the SJHL team there in Oklahoma. It was all Saskatchewan guys, right? Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody that's played there, they loved Oak City.
For sure. And they were
that
the
was
big
before the
ticket in
basketball team too. Yeah, they didn't have the NBA there yet. So
yeah, no. All they had was for the Sooners football. They had college football, and then hockey was the big ticket in town.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, how was Crusher? How was playing with Krushelisky?
It was interesting. He wasn't my favorite coach of all time, but he was a nice man. But he was not my favorite coach of all time.
Better player than a coach.
100%. Yeah, 100%. But again, he won a Stanley Cup as a coach. Also, he was in Detroit, and he was assistant coach in Detroit and won a Stanley Cup there also. So. Maybe the level wasn't a level that he would be good at. Maybe he needed those high-skilled players for what he wanted to do. We bumped heads quite often, but I would say 90% was probably my fault for wanting to do more, maybe given more of a leadership role on the team where now I'm not top dog, but right up there top dog. So maybe I think my opinion means more than what it should have meant. But we bumped heads quite a bit. But obviously, he played in the National Hockey, 50-goal scorer, won multiple Stanley Cups. He obviously knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'll give you one good story about Crusher. We stole his car one year. It was an all-star weekend. We had 3 or 4 days off, whatever it was. So he went home to visit his family. So he had a rental car that the team was providing with. So the trainer, he goes, "Hey, I got Mike's car." And we're like, a couple of players were like, "Okay, let's go. Where do you want? We're going to go. Let's go to Texarkana." "No, let's go to St. Charles." So we took his car and we took off for 3 days. So we slept in his car. So we went to Texarkana for 3 days, and then went to St. Charles for a day. We went to casino. We slept in the car. We didn't say nothing. Bring the car back. Trainer drops off the car. The Mike comes down to the rink, and he's wondering why there's 5,000 kilometers put on his car, and why is there footprints all over, and why is there food in the car, and why is there pillows in the back seat. And we had to come clean. "We stole your car." We went to us. "What the fuck?" "Sorry, Mike. This is the way it works here now." "Do you still want to stay here?" "Yes, I still want to stay here." "Okay." And it was kind of forgotten, but we stole the coach's car for 3 days and went to party.
There you go. Life in the minors, right?
Right? Yes.
Well, one guy you would have played in, he played in San Antonio, and he noted sort of OHL thuggery was Mark LaForge.
That's my buddy from Sudbury, Mark. Yeah, Forgy. He played with Crusher. Here's a good story. He came. We were playing the first time we were playing against him, and I know Mark in Looney Tunes, and Krushelisky played with him in Edmonton. So we're before a game, and we're in the room, and he circles his number. He goes, "Let this guy sleep. Don't get in his face. Don't get it. Let him sleep." Well, Mark was a physical player, and you didn't want to stand in front of the net when Mark was in front of the net. And, of course, one of our Russian guys scores and gets right up in his face and is, like, screaming, "Ah!" His eyes turn in his head. He came right down the ice. He chased our guy, not through the door, into our bench. 20-on-1, and Forgy was in there just beating the shit out of our guy on the ground in our own bench, and no one was breaking it up. Everyone was, like, stepping back. And so he gets his penalty or whatever. So later in the game, and I'm watching this Shantz. They had this Shantz. My job was to shadow Shantz and give him a hard time. So I get a chance at him, and I hammer him. But I know Forgy's on the other side, and I'm well aware of where he is at all times. So as soon as I hit their top guy, the play stops. Whistle. I know. I can see him coming from 60 feet away. I skated as fast as I could to the first in San Antonio guy I could find. I picked him up and I body slam on the ice just so we could get down and roll around so the referees would be on top of us so Forgy couldn't get at me. He tried to get at me. He tried whatever. Needless to say, he wanted to kill me. Going bananas, throwing the refs around. He gets thrown out. The game ends, but this is Mark LaForge to a T. The game ends, and it's like it never happened in the first place. I see him in the hall. Hey, it's come over. Hey, he wants to talk. Introduced me to his wife. He just had a kid. Hey, it was like nothing ever took place. That's how Forgy was. Forgy could just flip it, and all of a sudden he's a lunatic.
Yeah, it's an interesting case study, isn't it?
He's a fireman in town now, and well, he's retired now. But he was a fireman here he came back and he got on with the fire department here in Sudbury.
Yeah, it was interesting because there's that Tough Guy, that documentary that was made at the time, and he was one of the guys in it, and he basically just hated the role of fighting and stuff. He talked about it.
He was a high pick in the OHL draft. If I'm not mistaken, he was a first pick in the second round, but he was a player in minor hockey. Yeah, He was a player. He got turned into what he got turned into, and that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, another guy in Tulsa speaking of that Tough Guys documentary, he's all over it, was Curtis Voth.
Yeah, I've seen those videos. I've seen some of those things. And Curtis Voss was in Tulsa back down, and sure, he probably fought a lot of guys, but he wasn't one that anybody was really. He didn't strike fear in anybody. He was there and he would fight, but he wasn't. I wouldn't have him up on a list of tough guys.
Well, how about we got you got Columbus. How about you got Doug Mann and Tom Wilson and Brad Prefontaine? Yeah,
they were. It was a step down from the trip to Thunder Bay to go to those places. So maybe I was conditioned to what I came out of, to where I was. It was mild compared to the United League.
Yeah. Well, Huntsville won the championship that year, and of course they had Greg Lakovic, Sasha's brother, and DeGurse, and Goose down there.
He was a tough guy. He was a tough guy. DeGurse, he was a big tough guy, and they had Craig Cox too.
Yeah,
he was a player back then. He didn't have to fight anymore down at this level. He was a all-star.
Did you ever have any run-ins with Clint Collins?
Nah, not like another guy and I probably did through the years. I had a pretty good year. I think I might have had 260 or so PIMs that year, and I probably had 30, 35 fights. To remember them all, the toughest guy I can think of was that Radis Ivanis.
Yeah,
he played. Yeah, I can remember fighting him, and he was the only guy in that league that he was a great big man.
Yeah,
and he was the only guy that was stronger than when I would fight. The other, it was a lesser league. Let's call it that.
Yeah. Well, when that league wraps up, you fight. You're back in Saginaw. Well, then you guys ended up moving to. You moved to Canton halfway through the year there. But what made you come back home? Sort of.
Well, what happened was I was down in the Western Professional League.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. I was in Waco, and there was issues with, I know, Abilene, and there might have been another city that weren't getting paid, and then we were kind of falling into the same trap because of attendance. So we were warned that, okay, well, the owner's not going to make pay next week. So we had to take it either upon ourselves to trust the league that the league was going to pay us, or we were going to stand our ground and say, no, we're not playing. So I guess we all said we're standing our ground and we're not playing. And they had an immediate expansion draft right then and there a couple days later. And you could have went anywhere. So what happened was Kent Hawley picked up my rights in Madison. And I just, ipso facto, people knew people here and there, and I told them I wasn't going to go. And Robert Dirk, who I was in Saginaw at the beginning of the year prior to going down south, and I talked to some of those guys there, and he just, instead of going to Madison, you want to come here, Hawley will pass it for you if you want to come back. And I said, sure. I had a bunch of buddies who I knew they were still playing there, and so that's kind of how that happened.
Well, I wasn't sure if you went there to the Whipple or Whipple to the back. So you went to the Whipple, then back to the UHL. Yeah. Well, one of the guys in the WPHL we talked about earlier, of course, been on the show a couple times, and Dean Mayrad was in Waco with you.
Yeah, he was my roommate in Waco for a period of time. He was another good guy, and we say he's gone on to do all kinds of things in the pugilistic world of hockey. But he was a good guy too. And a tough man, strong. We weren't there very long. He was maybe 3 weeks. He was maybe a month. He was there before we we had that expansion or just dispansion draft.
Yeah. Well, I know you were briefly in San Angelo. Because I know Chris.
Yeah, a cup of coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Waltz was there, and Bajorny was there.
I was there for. Yep.
What did
it was another kind of sideshow thing where
Here we go.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, folks. We're kind of a little technical difficult. You just said there was a little sideshow thing.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. There was people. If you look at the team list, there was probably 50, 60 guys that rattled through there.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many coaches they rattled through the one year, and then Skeeter Moore ended up taking over and coach. It was a bit of a shit show in San Angelo. I don't think I was there for 3 weeks, and that's when I was like, I got to get out of here.
Well, and that was the thing with that league. It was a new league, but there was quite a few teams in it.
I think that's part of the problem. There are too many teams too quickly, and poor ownership and money problems.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of interesting. And it's just over the years. I mean, some of the. I've had guys in the show that played in Central Texas, played in Austin. They loved it, but for every Austin, there's an Abilene and a Waco, right? So
right,
yeah. Well, you end up in your final season there with you're back at Saginaw, 47 games, 24 points, 95 minutes, playing for Robert Dirk. How was playing for Dirk?
Durkee was good. I like playing for Durkee. He and that was a bit of a shit show too, because what happened was Saginaw moved halfway through the year.
Yeah.
So they were coming back. When I was coming back to the north, they were on their move. So when I got back, I met them on the move. So I met them in Flint. We played, and then we moved right to Ohio, like right after the game, where everything was kind of set up in Ohio for us there. And then another kind of makeshift, get rid of all these promises that their rink was coming, and Keith Gretzky was going to take over the team the next year, and nothing really came to fruition. We were pretty much playing in a community rink. Might have had fit 300 people. Like if you were coming from out of town and you pulled into that rink, you'd be like, okay, we're going public skating. There's no way we're playing a game here. Right? It was, but Durkee was good. Durkee was he was a player's coach. He expected you to play, but he was fun to play with for sure.
Well, and and a little different look to the United League from the one that you had left. You come back at BC Iceman, you got the Asheville Smoke, the Knoxville Mohawk Valley Prowlers, right, with the Roberts brothers kicking around. Mario and Serge.
Yeah. And two legit tough guys, right? And now there's a difference between the Central League and the United League. You didn't have Roberts brothers. You didn't have Jacques. You didn't have Garrett Burnett. You didn't have these guys down there. Though the top dogs didn't go there. So I'm assuming it had to be pay, but
yeah, well, it's just like you said. You got Gary Goulash in Quad City, and Steve Parsons in Knoxville, and I mean, you had like some crazy guys. I mean,
yeah,
at this point, like you said, you're kind of in this makeshift rink, and you're kind of, what am I doing? At this point, did you know this was going to be your last year?
No. What happened was I had a shoulder issue coming out of Ohio, and I had to get my rotator cuff. I had slap lesion. I had some issues with my shoulder. So what happened was I had an insurance buyout. So with my insurance buyout that I took, I wouldn't have been able to insure myself. When you go and play, your teams insure you. Because I took the buyout, I'd have to get my own insurance to play from now on. Yeah. And I wasn't making enough money to justify doing that. At that point, I was almost 30. I've spun my wheels for a few years. Would I like to continue playing? Sure, absolutely. But I had to get get on with things, and I had to get a job, a full-time job for a career-paying job, right? And that's kind of how that worked out. I would have loved to keep playing for a few more years. Just wasn't in the cards. So I got myself fixed up with my surgeries and stuff, and that took a year or two. And if not playing for a year or two, the chances were slim and none that I was going back after not playing for a couple of years.
Well, yeah, it was a heck of a run, and I'm going to ask you. I won't keep you any. I kept you here for a long time. I won't keep you too much longer. We'll talk about roller hockey here for a second, but just sort of as we kind of, like I said, we were throwing out the names and telling some stories as they're, and all the fights and everything else. If you look back on it, like just. And like you said, you can't remember every fight or whatever. But is there a couple fights that like stick out in your mind that it's like. That were kind of like, if somebody said, your career highlight fights, which ones would you tell them?
I had a good one with Rammer in the Bay. We had a good brawl in Quad Cities. Quad Cities has a big like a big screen in the arena. If you've ever been there, it's almost like a jumbotron at the one end of the rink. And we got into a 5-on-5 brawl one night. And it just so happens that I get paired up with a guy that's not very tough. Brett Straudy was kind of a player. And with the way the camera was working, it kind of focused in on us. The fight, Painter had got into a fight, and Jock was fighting, and Nick Forward, and there was a couple of... So I was kind of by myself, and we kind of made our way out to the blue line. Next thing you know, we're kind of like in center ice. But now it's on the Jumbotron. And I can see myself on the Jumbotron. And being the person that I am, now I'm going to put on a show. Because now I know everyone's watching me. And I knew that I had someone who I was much stronger than that I had the upper hand on.
Yeah.
So I was able to tie him up in a knot and hold him with one arm. And while I was doing that, I was blowing my nose on him. Like boxer style, like blocking one nostril and firing snot out. I could hear the people in the building screaming. He's blowing his nose on him. He's blowing his nose on him, and I can hear it like it's happening yesterday. And I'm like, and I think back now how immature and stupid and whatever, but it was all part and parcel of what was going on. And I could see myself on that jumbotron, just tied up strap, two hands. He's nothing he can do, and I'm just blowing snot at him the whole time. And there's nothing they can do because Painter's already pounded the one guy. Jacques killing the other guy. And this all happened for no reason other than the timekeeper. There was like 6 seconds left in the period or whatever, and he let the clock run down to 3. It wasn't a bad game. Our coach lost it over the 3 seconds, pulled the goalie and just put 6 dummies on the ice and said, fucking go kill these guys. And it led into this disaster of a thing. But the fact that if I could get video of that somehow on that smartboard, on that Jumbotron, that would have been awesome. Yeah, it would have, yeah.
And it was funny, and I've talked to certain guys, but was there any guy that you really wanted to fight that you never got a chance to?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Here's one. Luch Nasato.
Oh, okay.
Luch Nasato. He was playing in Flint. And I don't know. I see his stats or whatever. So I knew he was a little weasel. I guess he would fight too. But I didn't know him as that. And he would not fight. For whatever. Maybe Robbie knew they would fire me up. And at the time, I was playing D for Durkee in Ohio. So we're arguing. I'm yelling at Robbie Nichols. I'm telling Robbie Nichols, I said, I'm going to shoot the puck at your guy's fucking head. I go, as soon as I get this puck, I'm turning back towards the bench. I go, and he's getting it in the fucking head, whatever, Bob. Dan, if we don't win the draw, D to D comes over to me. I'm on the far side. I 180 the other way, and I start skating right back towards Flint's bench. Slap shot right into the bench. I missed Luch Nasato, thank God, because I probably would have hurt him really bad. And I missed Robbie Nichols by like millimeters. It's a howitzer. It's a slap shot. And they're pulling me out of the rink, and now Durkee and Robbie Nichols are going at it, and they're like behind the benches, and Durkee's like trying to stay out of it. He's like, I can't control the guy. I can't control the guy, whatever. And again, if you did that today, you're looking at, you might not play hockey again for the rest of the year. I got 2 minutes and I got tendon out of the game. That was it. But it was Lucian Asado drove me so nuts that I actually took a slap shot into the bench to try and do anything to get out. He just wouldn't drop the gloves, and just to this day it drives me nuts still when I think about it. That would be it. The rest, most of the guys that were, you bought your time and you got a hold of them. I played John Vecchiarelli was another guy that I played with that I didn't really care for very much, and when I got to play against him, I would chase him around the rink and he would not engage. And again, to this day, I would love to get one more chance at him.
Was there ever what was the worst beating you ever took in a fight?
The worst, I'd say the worst. There's one guy down in the Whipple, and I can't remember the guy's name, but I do remember getting dazed, and I do remember like pulling myself off the ice and going, Jesus Christ, that couldn't have been good. I do remember Shane McCosh too, one time in junior, getting me pretty good, where you realize once you're down on the ice that the fight's over, and now you you got stung.
Yeah.
Those would be two, yeah. But I was strong enough that I never let myself in a bad enough position to get hit too bad. That was the one thing I did have. I wasn't the tallest guy, but I was relatively strong for my size. So if I could get my hands on you, I was able to at least control you, that you couldn't get a real big upper hand on me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, before I let you go, I got obviously the roller hockey. I mean, you talked about Buffalo briefly. I mean, you played the one game, but they paid you the whole time to hang out. So that's a good summer gig for you guys back in the day.
Awesome. It was. We were getting like $200 a game, no matter what. You got a bonus if you won, U.S., tax-free. And then you got your bonuses based on where you finished in the standings, and then you got bonuses where you finished in the playoffs. So if you happen to be on a good team, you can make a few bucks over a couple months of the summertime. And it's not like regular hockey practice. You throw your ball cap on and you got your wheels, and you might spin around for an hour on the ice and work on some strategy, but that's about it. You show up in your flip-flops and you flew everywhere. You play in all the NHL rinks. You'd stay at like Orlando Universal Studios. You'd stay at, it was all top notch. It was a great summer job, I can tell you that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, look at you leading the charge here. You're Port Huron leading scorer in the Major League Hockey, roller hockey. Yeah,
they had a RHI and the MA, the Major League Roller Hockey. They had big argues over TV contracts, because when the RHI first came out, they had a TV contract, they had all the NHL rinks, and then they had this kind of outlawed Major League Roller Hockey when the RHI went into a 2-year sabbatical or something like that, over money, I would assume so. And then the Major League Roller Hockey kind of picked up, and you had it in some of the bigger cities, but now with some of the smaller cities. And it kind of got dumbed down too, kind of like if you want to compare it to the Central League, where you didn't have as many of the top roller hockey guys playing, just because the pay wasn't as good as RHI.
Yeah.
But again, as for a summer job, when you're spinning your wheels for an hour a day and you're in the sun, it's hard to beat.
I was going to say, it's better than cutting lawns or roofing, that's for sure.
Right? Exactly.
Well, J.D. Eaton, looking back at your career, and you had the heck of a run there in the OHL, and then down in the Colonial League and the Whipple, and looking back on it, I mean, like you said, would you do it all over again?
Absolutely. Even I teach now, and I talk to kids, and some of the kids that are playing sports, and I talk to their parents, and they're like, "Oh, should they do this? Should they do that?" And I'm like, "Well, you know what? It's better to leave with no regrets than saying," because even to this day, you hear guys, "Oh, I could have did this." Well, you could have, and you could have, and I could, yeah, but you didn't. So could you have? Well, I know what I could have, because I tried to do what I wanted to do and ended up doing what I could do. Don't regret a thing. Met a lot of wonderful people, played in a lot of places. Every booster club, every city took me in. I loved every place I was. I can't say a bad thing about the people in any city that I was in. I wouldn't change it. Sure, I'd like to make $1 million and play in National Hockey League, but I wouldn't have changed anything that happened to me along the way.
Do you get out to any OHL games these days?
Here and there. I have a couple of buddies that coach and do certain things for different teams in the OHL. So when they're in town, I'll go watch. But I don't head to too many Wolves games unless I have a buddy or something working with another organization. Then I might go watch, but that's about it.
It's a different world than the OHL rink, the game that you played.
Yeah, that's part of it too. For me, it's not as entertaining to watch. It's faster and the skill levels improve, sure, but the physical aspect of it is non-existent anymore, pretty much. And, that's something that was intriguing to me.
Yeah, well, that's, before I'll let you go here right away. I've kept you for a long time, but I was just going to ask you, like you said, you know people that are still involved in the game. We won't throw out names or anything, but they're still involved in the junior hockey, and they played with you back in the day, and they came from that background, right? What do they say about it? I mean, I know what they say to the media and on TV, right? Because they have to say that. But when you're sitting there drinking beers after in the backyard, are they just like, Jesus, this shit's soft? Just like that, just like this, like we're talking the same thing. Oh man, it's not like when we played. It's soft. It's, the physical aspects lost. They've taken fighting out of it to a point. Yada yada yada. The clutch and grab is gone. Right? You can't lock up on face-offs anymore. The speed's faster. You can't. Guys are getting hurt, but they're not getting hurt for anything other than the speed of the game. It's not because of the violence of the physicality of like it was in the old days. Guys are smaller now. They might be taller, but they're lean. You can't carry weight. You don't have guys like a Bufflin or big dudes that are playing anymore. That it's null and void. If you can't skate, you can't play anymore. When you had a lot of guys that were maybe not the best skaters, but could play hockey. Mark Green could score 80 goals. He couldn't skate. Yeah,
right? You don't have those. If you can't skate now, you can't play.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just been interesting. You know what I was gonna? I didn't even ask this because I didn't know if you'd. And I can't. And I'm glad he's. David Branch. Of course, he was the OHL commissioner, but he was also the commissioner of the Canadian Hockey League. Yep. Did you ever have any run-ins with Branch for your?
No, I didn't. I think I might have had one small suspension ever in junior hockey, but it was never. I had no crossings with David Branch. No.
That's interesting.
Probably wouldn't have worked. Probably wouldn't have been a good conversation anyways.
No, yeah.
We don't see the same.
Yeah, I was going to say he views hockey a little different than we do. Right. But,
yes.
Well, sir, I want to thank you for taking time out tonight to sit down and go down memory lane with us. And I know, we get a lot of people here that are, they love the old days and the old OHL days and the Colonial League. And I want to thank you very much for taking the time.
I appreciate having me on. It was awesome for me to take another trip down memory lane too. I can't get enough of them.
Well, I got, like I said, I have some old newspaper articles that I sent you the picture there of on the bus there, the guy sleeping.
Yes, that's in June. Yeah, with Paul Doherty, and I recognize right away Doherty and Chris Phelps. So actually, Paul's from Sudbury, so I knew him my whole life. But I had to look a little bit harder to see who they're laying down. But right away I knew it was Chris Phelps.
Yeah, there's a few articles I'll send you. But
awesome.
Well, there was one article I forgot to mention. It talks about you and Nick Forbes. You got booted from Utica for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, Forbes. We got in a little mess in Saginaw one night, and Forbes got out of control, and we all kind of went down in the same ship.
Yeah, they were looking. Yeah. They were looking for it. They were looking for an excuse, and you gave them a reason. Yeah.
We did. We sure did. Yes, we did. Yes.
Well, there we go, folks. We'll leave it at that. But JD, thank you very much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And you people that don't like fighting, how many of you did you walk out and get a coffee while that was on?